Chapter 878. The news of Lin Jun tearing Bai Yunfei apart with his bare hands caused a huge uproar in Sky Square City. Bai Yunfei used to be a famous gladiator with many supporters. Every time he participated in a battle in the arena, there would be many fans who would come to support him. However, such a deity realm powerhouse was actually torn apart by Lin Jun with his bare hands. For such a situation to happen, apart from Lin Jun's proper tactics, it also fully proved the difference in strength between the two of them. Killing Bai Yunfei in an instant was something only those ace gladiators could do. It turned out that there was such a figure in the White Tiger Hall arena who actually had the strength of an ace gladiator. Wasn't that equivalent to a 5-star warrior? Lin Jun's information began to be dug out by people continuously. Since entering the primordial realm, Lin Jun's actions were like being studied under a microscope. These experiences allowed people to fully witness the rise of a genius. Lin Jun's experience could no longer be described other than the word genius. If one had to add an adjective, it would be genius among geniuses. If he was only good at martial arts, it would be fine. However, people were surprised to find that Lin Jun was also a saint-level alchemist in addition to being a 3-flowering stage warrior. The difficulty of becoming a saint-level alchemist was even higher than becoming a 3-flower stage warrior. It was really hard for people to imagine how Lin Jun, who was more than 1,100 years old, could achieve these two things at the same time. This was unscientific no matter how they calculated it. However, existence was the reason. It could only be said that this new territory's kid named Lin Jun was really freakishly talented. After Lin Jun's experience was exposed, his fans also increased. Many warriors began to regard Lin Jun as their idol, thinking that he had endless potential and would definitely become a god in the future. The situation in the virtual battlefield a few days later also made people more aware of Lin Jun's strength. Following Chen Yuan, there were still some warriors who were attracted by the 3 Tigers' reward and launched endless attacks and assassinations on Lin Jun. However, these attacks had no effect at all. Lin Jun used his powerful strength time and time again to prove that he was almost invincible. The next day, at a distance of 30,000 meters, Lin Jun once again killed Yang Qingji, one of the 4 great martial artists under Fu Qinfeng of the White Tiger Hall. On the second night, the other 2 heavenly kings under Fu Qinfeng joined forces with a group of gladiators from the Velocidragon cavalry to ambush Lin Jun. Under Lin Jun's request, Chen Yuan didn't participate in this battle. Lin Jun fought 1 against 3 celestial realm experts. The battle was extremely fierce, from midnight to dawn. Lin Jun was injured many times, but his inconceivably powerful recovery ability left a deep impression on everyone. He persevered under the pincer attack of the 3 experts. At the last moment, Lin Jun's doppelganger appeared. The 3 against 1 became 3 against 2. The 3 experts were caught off guard and suffered a great loss. 2 of them were killed on the spot. The last one from the Velocidragon cavalry wanted to escape, but he was killed by Lin Jun's doppelganger with a shot from the Qilin cannon. After this battle, Lin Jun's reputation had spread all over Sky Square City. You could forget about anyone, but you couldn't forget about the current most popular martial artist, Lin Jun. Although Sky Square City was nothing in the entire endless battlefield, the dimensional universes were interconnected. The news about Lin Jun gradually spread out. People in various places far away in the endless battlefield would occasionally open the dimensional universes. When they saw the forum of Sky Square City, they would exclaim in surprise, "Oh, there seems to be a pretty good gladiator in Sky Square City." On the 3rd day of the virtual battlefield, a new situation occurred. San Hu's speech was spread out. San Hu, Fu Qinfeng, and the others had already reached the peak of the island. On the peak, San Hu directly announced that he would wait here for the arrival of Lin Jun to clean up the White Tiger Hall. Back then, San Hu had once said that he would teach Lin Jun a lesson. However, Lin Jun started a massacre on the road. This was tantamount to slapping the face of White Tiger Hall. Sanhu couldn't take this lying down. However, he didn't dare to fight one-on-one with Lin Jun. In the end, he found Fu Qingfeng. Fu Qingfeng also promised Sanhu that he would teach Lin Jun a lesson and eliminate him. In addition to the two of them waiting at the peak, many other martial artists of White Tiger Hall were also gathering at the peak. They wanted to settle this once and for all with Lin Jun. It was conceivable that the final battle in the virtual battlefield would never be peaceful. However, this time, not many people were optimistic about White Tiger Hall because Lin Jun had Chen Yuan by his side. Chen Yuan represented the powerful force of the three chivalrous society. If he intervened at the last moment, Sanhu and Fu Qingfeng's arrangements might be useless. Therefore, most people believed that Lin Jun could get the opportunity to go to the eye of the storm without doing anything. Only Lin Jun didn't think so. Chen Yuan and Klinsmann were rushing to the peak of the island. It was now late at night on the third day. There were less than 3 hours until the end of the day. At the bottom of the island, the waves had already risen 69 times. When the 70th time came, there were only 2 hours left. They had also climbed to a height of more than 71,000 meters. They were not far from the peak. Klinsmann walked in the darkness with a big flag. Darkness had no effect on martial artists of their level. Everyone was a telekinesis master and had night vision. Lin Jun and Chen Yuan walked side by side at the back. "Boss, there are only about 13,000 gladiators left in the entire virtual battlefield," Klinsmann reported loudly in front. "Got it. Let's keep moving. Don't worry, there will definitely be a place for us in the last 10,000. Klinsmann stopped talking and walked forward with the flag. Occasionally, a figure flashed by in the darkness, but no one dared to approach. Lin Jun's kill count was still the highest. At this time, not many people dared to take the initiative to seek death. At this time, Chen Yuan said to Lin Jun, "Junior brother, it's definitely not a problem for you to qualify this time. As long as you say the word, the gladiators of the three chivalrous society will definitely do their best to help you. The White Tiger Hall is nothing to us." Lin Jun smiled and said, "Thank you, senior brother. Hey, you don't have to be so polite with me. We are all from the same holy land, and we're all taught by fifth senior brother. We should help each other. Let me tell you, in the endless battlefield, the martial artists of the various holy lands often work together. If the people of the fallen Star Lake are not united, we will be bullied in the future." Lin Jun nodded and said, "Senior brother is right, but this time, I hope senior brother will not interfere. I will deal with the people of the White Tiger Hall myself." "No way, junior brother. I won't say anything about the others, but Fu Qingfeng is definitely not easy to deal with. Even I will have to put in a lot of effort to deal with him. Moreover, I am worried that he will rope in Hillman of the Speed Dragon Knight. If the two of them join forces, I'm afraid we won't have much of a chance in this battle." "Oh, the Speed Dragon Knights might join?" "That's right. Hillman is the ace gladiator of the Velociraptor Knight. I've fought with him before, and I won by a narrow margin. He only suffered light injuries. Moreover, this person is only interested in profit. If Fu Qingfeng and Three Tigers offer a high enough price, he might really be able to join in." Lin Jun said slowly, "If that is the case, I hope senior brother can restrain the Speed Dragon Knights and not let them interfere in this matter. As long as senior brother can do this, it will be fine." Chen Yuan clenched his teeth and said, "No problem. I will take the stance of joining the battle. Hillman will certainly not dare to act rashly. But in that case the pressure on you will be too great." Lin Jun waved his hand and said, "It doesn't matter. Let's not talk about this. Senior brother, tell me about the situation outside." "Okay, then let's talk about the outside. In fact, Sky City is considered one of the rear bases of the surface races in the endless battlefield. The real experts generally won't come to this kind of border area. If it wasn't for the disappearance of an important person in Qingqiu Mountain some time ago, there wouldn't be so many endless races here. In the real battlefield, a 5-star warrior like me is just a small fry. A 6-star warrior can barely stand, and a 7-star warrior is the main force. The people who really dominate the endless battlefield are the Hall of the Exalted members from both sides. Lin Zhen looked at Chen Yuan and said, I have heard about the Hall of the Exalted many times. What is the background of this Hall of the Exalted? The Hall of the Exalted has a great background. Let me put it this way. The so-called Hall of the Exalted is a list of the strongest experts from both sides below the gods. Whether it is the surface races or the endless races, each side has 100 top experts. These 100 people are the members of the Hall of the Exalted. They are the invincible experts in the endless battlefield. Every time they hear about the appearance of a Hall of the Exalted member, the others on the battlefield basically have to retreat. Then how can I enter the Hall of the Exalted? Lin Zhen had a yearning for the Hall of the Exalted. That's very difficult. Usually, one of the 100 people will become a god or die in order to free up a spot in the Hall of the Exalted. This way, the people behind will have a chance to compete. Otherwise, they will have to challenge the Hall of the Exalted directly. However, it is basically impossible to win if you challenge the Hall of the Exalted directly. Lin Zhen was a little surprised. Since they are all below the gods, the strongest expert in the Hall of the Exalted should be a demigod. Are demigods unbeatable? Chen Yuan waved his hand and said, Demigods are experts, but let me tell you, there is a condition to become a Hall of the Exalted member. If you don't fulfill this condition, you won't even be qualified to challenge. What condition? Be titled as a king. What do you mean by titled as a king? Lin Zhen was stunned and asked. Chen Yuan's face revealed a yearning look. Obtaining a title means making a name for yourself in the endless battlefield. Everyone will give you a title based on your characteristics, which is also a commonly known nickname. For example, Fu Qingfeng's master, laughing over all life, was once titled as Bloodhand King. His full name in the Hall of the Exalted is Laughing Over All Life. How can I obtain it? Chapter 879. Lin Zhen learned about the Hall of the Exalted and the title of King from Chen Yuan. Although Lin Zhen was only in the three-flower realm, he felt that he was not far away from that step. If you want to be a king, you need to have a certain amount of fame. Then, the battle to make a name for yourself will begin here. When the blood-red flag approached the top of the mountain, the 70th high tide had passed. Now, there were less than 2 hours before the end of the virtual battlefield. Come and watch the live broadcast. Lin Zhen and White Tiger Hall are going to fight. No way, they are really going to fight. It's really worth watching. Whether Lin Zhen is a hero or a coward depends on this. He has made such a big scene. It will be a joke if he is eliminated. Either he will become a joke or White Tiger Hall will become a joke. In short, there will be a good show this time. The forum of Heavenly Square City was very boisterous. Previously, there shouldn't be any big waves in this virtual battlefield. At most, some dark horses would make a sudden appearance or some powerhouses would be eliminated due to mistakes. However, he had not expected Lin Zhen to appear and turn this virtual battlefield into a great show. People who did not pay much attention to the gladiator battlefield began to pay attention to it. At this time, the number of people watching the video in Sky City had exceeded 2 billion. The only thing that was not very satisfactory was that the video was not so clear in the dark. There was an open area at the top of the mountain. Through this open area, one could reach the top of the mountain that could only accommodate 10,000 people. When Lin Zhen and Chen Yuan arrived at this open area, it was the darkest time before dawn. In the dark night, Fu Qingfeng and the 3 tigers were already waiting for Lin Zhen's arrival. In addition to the 2 of them, Chen Yuan also saw Hillman from the Speed Dragon Knight. This old guy is really here. They have joined forces. Chen Yuan immediately went up and whistled. There were many gladiators from the three chivalrous society who were watching the show. When they heard Qin Yuan's call, they immediately ran over and gathered around Qin Yuan. Very quickly, Qin Yuan also pulled a group of people and came before Hillman. Hillman, the grudge between Lin Zhen and White Tiger Hall doesn't need to be handled by others. If your dragon riders insist on getting involved in this mess, then we, the Three Heroes Guild, don't mind joining in as well. What do you think? Hillman's expression turned ugly. Must you interfere? Don't forget that the two of us are now working together. You won't gain anything by interfering. Qin Yuan sneered. You don't have to worry about that. I can't guarantee anything else, but before the battle ends, I will definitely eliminate you, Hillman. Hillman clenched his teeth and circulated his chi for a while. In the end, he said with difficulty, if we, the Dragon Riders, don't interfere, the Three Heroes Guild won't either. No problem. Deal. Soon, Qin Yuan and Hillman came to an agreement. Both of them led their subordinates to the peak of the mountain and left this place to White Tiger Hall and Lin Zhen to deal with. After the two gangs left, the empty space immediately became a lot more spacious. There were now nearly 13,000 people in the entire virtual battlefield. Among them, White Tiger Hall had the least number of people, only about 3,000. The other two gangs had a total of 9,000 people. After the two gangs left, there weren't many empty spaces left. At this time, it was the darkest time of the night. The people from White Tiger Hall who were sitting cross-legged in various positions opened their eyes one after another. Everyone looked at Lin Zhen together, like a pack of wolves in the night. Everyone focused their mental energy on their eyes, emitting a wolf-like gaze. On the path to the peak of the mountain, Fu Qingfeng moved a chair and sat there. He looked down at Lin Zhen from above. The three tigers took the lead and walked to a place dozens of meters away from Lin Zhen. He said coldly, Lin Zhen, the road to the peak is now blocked by us. If you want to go to the peak, the only way is to pass through us. Now, there are about 3,000 gladiators from White Tiger Hall here, and there are already more than 9,000 people from the two gangs on the peak. Do you know what this means? Lin Zhen smiled. It means that most of you will be eliminated. The three tigers gritted his teeth and said, Wrong. This means that the White Tiger Hall is determined to eliminate you. We would rather sacrifice a lot of gladiators than let you trample the dignity of the White Tiger Hall under your feet. Today, even if most of us have to die with you, we will kill you, you bastard. Lin Zhen looked at the three tigers from head to toe. I hope you won't regret this choice. Cut the crap, Lin Zhen. You are dead today. The three tigers retreated after saying that. He waved his hand and a group of gladiators from White Tiger Hall walked out. There were hundreds of gladiators in this group, and they all had one thing in common. They were all riding on mounts. Everyone, get ready. Each of you will only have one chance to fight Lin Zhen. Take turns to attack him. Don't charge together. This kid has a powerful killing move. Each of you can attack him once. We will exhaust him to death. The three tigers laid out their strategy, and the cavalry began to attack from all directions. The final battle between Lin Zhen and White Tiger Hall had finally begun. Lin Zhen held the Lance of Lantis with both hands and welcomed the first cavalry attack. When this warrior attacked, he completely abandoned all his defenses and focused all his strength on his sword. He attacked Lin Zhen. If Lin Zhen was the only one fighting him, Lin Zhen could finish him off with one move. However, Lin Zhen couldn't do that now. The other party's charging formation was very layered. They came one after another at an extremely fast speed. If Lin Zhen managed to kill one of them, it would be very difficult for the second person to resist. Lin Zhen had no choice but to wave his long spear and block. Clang! After a loud bang, the cavalryman brushed past Lin Zhen's shoulder, and the second cavalryman arrived within 0.01 seconds. Clang! After another attack, the third cavalry immediately followed. San Hu laughed loudly from afar. Lin Zhen, take your time to resist. We have about 3,000 people here. Each of us has a blade. We'll take turns attacking. Even if you're a piece of iron, you'll be smashed into a metal pancake." As he spoke, he came to Fu Qingfeng's side and said proudly, "Qingfeng, what do you think of my plan? It should be enough for that kid to suffer." Fu Qingfeng shook his head. "It won't be that easy." The three tigers said, "I also know that it won't be that easy to win. However, this time it is absolutely foolproof. Qingfeng, you will personally block the entrance to the mountain peak. Lin Zhen won't be able to jump around in this open space. If he has the ability, why don't he kill all 3,000 people? I'm afraid he doesn't have that ability." A smile appeared on Fu Qingfeng's face. "The reason I agreed to your plan is because you asked me to personally guard the mountain pass. With this move, no matter what Lin Zhen does, it will be useless." The three tigers also sat down beside Fu Qingfeng. "Then let's watch the show from here. There is still an hour and 10 minutes before the last wave will flood this place. Let's hope Lin Zhen can hold on for a while longer." Lin Zhen's tenacity exceeded everyone's expectations. One cavalry after another charged at him with much more force than usual. However, no matter how much force they used, Lin Zhen was still able to easily block their attacks. After attaching gold to the Lance of Lantis, it was practically indestructible. Lin Zhen activated Immovable Mountain and held his lance horizontally, meeting force with force. Clang 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 clang. The sound of metal striking formed a line. The cavalry charged at Lin Zhen like a tidal wave, but they couldn't shake Lin Zhen in the slightest. Nearly 500 cavalry took turns to charge at Zhang Che, completing a round every 10 seconds. However, after several hundred rounds, Lin Zhen was still the same old Lin Zhen. He didn't retreat even a hair's distance. The White Tiger Hall members, who were initially excited by the cavalry's swift and fierce charge, were about to fall asleep. It wasn't scary that the opponent was strong. What was scary was that they couldn't see any hope at all. The tide of the 71st round had already risen. It meant that there was less than an hour until the end of the battle. However, the battle was so dull that it made everyone feel drowsy. "How long will it take to finish? It's so boring." The words of a White Tiger Hall gladiator represented the thoughts of many people, including the charging cavalry. After repeating the same action over and over again, the cavalry was tired. They no longer had the strength to swing their weapons. Even the people who were watching the video of the final battle had logged off. They just had to wait for tomorrow's news. It was already so dark that they couldn't see clearly. It was really boring to see this kind of repetitive scene. Everyone was a little tired. The opportunity Lin Zhen had been waiting for arrived under such circumstances. Because the cavalry was charging in a circular fashion, the surrounding White Tiger Hall martial artists stayed on both sides. After passing through the cavalry, they could reach the mountain peak entrance where the three tigers and Fu Qingfeng were. A gladiator riding a black ghost horse followed the martial artist in front of him as he charged. Lin Zhen had been paying attention to him for a while. This guy seemed to be trying to make up the numbers and was charging over weakly. This was a rare opportunity. Lin Zhen silently counted 1, 2, 3, and when this enemy arrived, he, who had been silent for almost half an hour, suddenly exploded. Armor transformation. Because this person's attack was the weakest, Lin Zhen chose to take it head-on. Sure enough, this martial artist's saber only symbolically slashed across Lin Zhen's body, creating a trail of sparks. The gladiator himself was stunned. He didn't expect Lin Zhen to suddenly give up on defense. He actually managed to slash Lin Zhen. Unfortunately, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but he didn't use any strength. Lin Zhen didn't block this time. He finally had a chance to calmly attack. Land of Spring. With a flick of his spear, energy erupted and countless earth spikes shot up into the sky, blocking off the cavalry behind him. Chapter 880. The moment Third Tiger and Fu Qingfeng yawned, the situation suddenly changed. Lin Zhen's body had already turned into a meteor, smashing towards the two of them. No, it wasn't a meteor. It was a flying star. Dazzling light and heat shrouded the edge of the star. The air distorted in front of their eyes, as if this scene was somewhat unreal. However, both of them could clearly feel that the star was about to explode. At this moment, the two of them made different choices. Fu Qingfeng chose to dodge, while Third Tiger chose to face it head-on. Third Tiger hated Lin Jun even more. He swore that he wouldn't let Lin Jun pass through the mountain peak entrance. Therefore, he mustered all his strength to face Lin Jun's star fall head-on. On the other hand, Fu Qingfeng followed his instincts and dodged the star that was about to explode. Following a loud explosion, a mushroom cloud rose from the mountain peak entrance. Fu Qingfeng's body leaped into the air. In this virtual battlefield where flight was not allowed, he jumped dozens of meters and dodged the center of the mushroom cloud. He was very glad. If he had stayed here and faced this move head-on, he was afraid that even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. However, he soon felt a chill in his heart. This way, no one would be able to stop Lin Jun from entering the mountain peak. Their painstaking arrangements were all for naught. As for Third Tiger, Fu Qingfeng didn't have any hope for him to survive. As the smoke dissipated, the situation at the mountain peak entrance gradually became clear. Lin Jun stood there with a long spear in his hand, replacing Fu Qingfeng's previous position. Third Tiger was no longer visible. Only half of his broken sword was left on the ground, proving that he had once been here. Third Tiger had been eliminated. This scene caused an uproar once again. The battle was over. White Tiger Hall had already lost, and they had lost in an ugly manner. They had deployed a large number of troops to guard this place, but they couldn't stop Lin Jun from advancing. Lin Jun had even killed Third Tiger amidst thousands of troops, giving the people of White Tiger Hall a ruthless slap in the face. Now, as long as Lin Jun turned around, he could enter the mountain peak. No one would be able to stop him. The dimensional universe of Heavenly Square City was filled with voices of support for Lin Jun. As a result, White Tiger Hall became a joke. In particular, Fu Qingfeng's performance made everyone gasp in amazement. He chose to dodge Lin Jun's desperate attack. How could someone with such courage be qualified to be an ace gladiator? Although Fu Qingfeng couldn't see the situation on the forums, he could imagine it. With an ugly expression, Fu Qingfeng glared fiercely at Lin Jun. Lin Jun, I admit that I underestimated you this time. You have some skills and a lot of battle wisdom. You may have won this time, but that doesn't mean you will win in the future. When the Eye of the Storm arrives, I will settle all the old and new debts between us. Fu Qingfeng decided to swallow his anger. Since he couldn't stop Lin Jun now, he might as well admit defeat. That way, he would be able to gain the reputation of being magnanimous. As for the grudge between him and Lin Jun, he could settle it in the future. After all, there was no order in the top 10,000. Since Lin Jun had entered the mountain peak, he could also enter. When he reached the Eye of the Storm, he would have plenty of opportunities to settle the score with Lin Jun. However, he didn't expect Lin Jun to laugh contemptuously. Ha! Fu Qingfeng, you must be dreaming. How can you be so sure that you will have a chance to go to the Eye of the Storm? Fu Qingfeng was stunned when he heard this. Then, he said, What do you mean? You have entered the mountain peak. Is there anyone here who can stop me from entering? Even if only one person from White Tiger Hall can enter, that person must be me, Fu Qingfeng. They won't dare to compete with me. Lin Jun laughed loudly. I told you that you're stupid, and you're showing me your stupidity. It seems that I have no choice but to tell you this directly. Today, not only you, but everyone from White Tiger Hall is not allowed to enter the mountain peak. If you want to enter, you'll have to step over my dead body. After he finished speaking, Lin Jun raised the Lance of Lantis in his hand and firmly blocked the entrance to the mountain peak. At this moment, the first rays of dawn appeared from the east. They fell on Lin Jun's body and covered him in a layer of light. He was covered in light, and the sea was flowing below him. There were thousands of strong enemies in front of him, and he blocked the entrance to the mountain peak with his lance alone. This scene was destined to become a classic in his life. Fu Qingfeng was stunned at first. Then, he flew into a rage. Then, he laughed out of extreme anger. Ha ha! Ha ha ha! Lin Zhen, oh Lin Zhen, did I hear wrongly? Is there anyone as stupid as you in this world? Do you think you can stop the 3,000 brothers of White Tiger Hall by yourself? People can be arrogant, but they can't be as arrogant as you. The gladiators of White Tiger Hall behind him were even more agitated. They all cursed at Lin Zhen. They already felt humiliated when Lin Zhen slipped through a loophole. They didn't expect Lin Zhen to be so arrogant as to block the entrance and stop everyone from White Tiger Hall here. Some of the hot-tempered gladiators had already roared angrily and took the lead to charge towards Lin Zhen. Their weapons shone under the sunlight. Their faces were distorted at this moment. Some were shouting, some were roaring, and some were cursing. One side had 3,000 gladiators, and the other side had one. Whether Lin Zhen won or lost in this battle, his name had reached the point where everyone in Heavenly Square City knew him. On a floating continent, the martial artists of Heavenly Square City were preparing to fight with the martial artists of the endless races. However, in the free time before the battle, these martial artists were watching the final battle of the gladiators. Oh, Marta, come and take a look. Whether this kid wins or loses, I hope to recruit him into our team. I like his crazy drive. In a tavern in Heavenly Square City, the people who stayed up late to watch the final battle of the gladiators were all stunned at this moment. The bartender was pouring wine for a guest, and he didn't even know that he had poured it out. What the hell? This kid is really ruthless. In the depths of the endless battlefield, in a dangerous place called the Ancient Star Maze, the Heavenly Square City Lord, Old Man Kanjing, was also watching the video. Kanjing, what are you watching? A figure flashed in the starry sky, and a martial artist with lightning all over his body appeared. Stepping on the void, the martial artist came to Old Man Sanjing's side, and the lightning automatically extinguished. Take a guess. Old Man Kanjing laughed. Hee, then let me guess. Are you watching the battle videos of the Hall of the Exalted? Old Man Kanjing shook his head slightly. Did you take a fancy to the potential of a king-ranked martial artist and want to take him as your disciple? Old Man Kanjing laughed and shook his head again. He raised his hand, and the water mirror space in his palm showed the scene of Lin Zhen intercepting Fu Qingfeng and the others. What's this? Hee, Lelo, this is a small matter that happened in the Heavenly Square City that I built. I have several arenas there, and the gladiators are competing for the opportunity to go to the Eye of the Storm. Now, both sides of the battle are from a gang called White Tiger Hall. Lelo laughed. Old Man Kanjing, how bored are you to pay attention to such a small matter? Have you lived for too long and can't find the goal to move forward? No, Lelo, take a closer look. There are 3,000 people on one side and only one person on the other side. Moreover, this person is in the three-flower realm. There are plenty of people on the other side who are in the divine telekinesis transformation realm. Is there such a thing? Lelo finally became serious and watched the video carefully. After watching for a while, Lelo sucked in a breath of cold air and said directly, "This little guy's future is limitless." Old Man Kanjing looked at Lelo. Maybe you don't know, but this little guy is from the holy land of Fallen Star Lake. Lelo was stunned for a moment and said after a while, "Damn, then he's my junior brother." At the entrance of the mountain peak, the battle had just begun, but it had already reached its climax. The cavalry became the main force of the charge, advancing dauntlessly toward Lin Zhen. But at this time, they finally saw Lin Zhen's true strength. After Lin Zhen turned into armor, he held his long spear horizontally. It was harder than the rocks in the latrine pit. After activating a movable mountain, the long spear flew up and down, forcibly blocking the simultaneous charge of dozens of people from the other side. He waved the spear in his hand like a windmill, intercepting all the attacks from the other side. "Go, Master! This kid is very arrogant, we need to work harder. He's guarding the mountain pass and can't move left and right. Everyone, try to lean forward and don't give him any chance to catch his breath. Those with long-range attacks use long-range attacks. Those without long-range attacks use mental attack. I don't believe that he's only one person, and his whole body is made of iron. How many nails can he hit?" Attacks that blotted out the sky and covered the earth came over, forming a powerful suppression on Lin Jun. No matter how strong Lin Jun was, it was impossible for him to block 3,000 people by himself. Everyone firmly believed this. It could be seen from Lin Jun's continuous injuries that he definitely wouldn't be able to resist for long. Lin Jun also seemed to have gone crazy. Thousands of rays of light burst out from all over his body, exerting the power of the light element to the limit. This way, he could maintain his lightspeed attacks and lightspeed defenses to the greatest extent. It was like a rising sun, reflecting the sunset on the horizon. It was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. Everyone crazily rushed forward. In any case, they didn't need to worry about defense. As long as they maintained this attack for a minute, Lin Jun would undoubtedly die. However, no one noticed that behind Lin Jun's rays of light, another Lin Jun had appeared and secretly used the black hole beast transformation. The one holding the spear in front was actually just his clone. This was Lin Jun's strategy. The clone blocked everyone's attacks, and the rays of light dazzled the enemy's eyes. No one would notice the situation behind the rays of light. The black hole beast transformation was completed. The two cavalrymen attacked at the same time, thrusting their spears forward and finally piercing through the abdomen of Lin Jun's clone. Success! They shouted excitedly, but then they realized that the Lin Jun in front of them had disappeared. The clone returned to his inner world, and in its place was a terrifying big mouth. Inside the big mouth, a black hole spiraled, and a star core rotated. The deep universe beckoned to everyone. Chapter 881. The fact that Lin Jun dared to take on 3,000 people wasn't because he was crazy, but because he had a plan. In a normal battle, one person had no chance of winning against 3,000 people. The people in front of him weren't rookies. They were at least at the three-flower realm, and many of them were even at the divine transformation realm. If he wanted to gain an advantage in this situation, he had to use the black hole devour. Lin Jun's plan was to use his doppelganger to defend himself and buy time for his main body to use the black hole devour. Under Lin Jun's various concealment methods, this move finally achieved a miraculous effect. The martial artists gathered in front of Lin Jun experienced the baptism of the black hole devour for the first time in their lives. A hole appeared in space, and the ripples of death spread to the ends of their vision. Aside from the people on both sides of the hole, everyone else was killed. It didn't matter if they were at the three-flower realm, divine will realm, or deity realm. As long as their star power didn't exceed 700 million, they couldn't block Lin Jun's black hole devour. Previously, in front of Lin Jun, hundreds of cavalry and a large number of White Tiger Hall gladiators had gathered, ready to launch a powerful attack on Lin Jun. After this move, the entire area was turned into a vacuum. It was completely empty. There was nothing there. After the black hole devour, there were less than 300 people left. Fu Qingfeng stood in the distance, his hands and feet cold. As the ace gladiator of White Tiger Hall, he originally planned to command from afar and look for an opportunity to attack. He didn't expect that this move would save him, allowing him to escape the black hole devour. He couldn't imagine how such a terrifying innate skill could exist in this world. If he had a choice, he wouldn't want to fight to the death with Lin Jun. However, there wasn't much time left until the last high tide, so Fu Qingfeng had no other choice. Don't be afraid. This is the black hole beast's innate skill. He can only use it once, and his doppelganger has been crippled. We are no longer in danger. Fu Qingfeng wanted to encourage the remaining gladiators, but they were hesitant to move forward. Fu Qingfeng was furious. What are you waiting for? The tide will come up soon. If we don't defeat Lin Jun, we will all drown. If we lose in the virtual battlefield, we will just return to the gladiator arena and continue to be gladiators. What's there to be afraid of? His words were still very provocative. The remaining 200 gladiators gathered around again. Without the threat of being devoured by the black hole, their courage returned. Lin Jun held the royal heavenly manifestation dual swords in his hands and knew that the real battle was about to begin. He couldn't deal with 3,000 people, but he wanted to give it a try with less than 300 people. Go! Fu Qingfeng roared, and the remaining gladiators charged forward. Tomb of the Gods! Lin Jun's twin swords slashed out, and the 4 martial artists that were charging at him were sliced into 8 halves on the spot. Ding ding dang dang! A series of attacks landed on Lin Jun's armored body. His gold-infused body was riddled with holes, but the damage was only on the surface. Abyss! Lin Jun leaped up and dodged a wave of attacks from the gladiators. His limitless sword technique finally appeared. He slashed out with his sword, and a sharp sword chi streaked across the air, bringing with it a series of broken limbs. Another series of attacks landed on Lin Jun, causing his body to flip a few rounds in the air. Lotus flowers appeared on the surface of his body, blocking a few more fatal attacks, and his body landed on the ground. Chilling! Another 7 to 8 gladiators fell under Lin Jun's sword. Swish swish! 2 halberds pierced over like venomous snake. Lin Jun's twin swords slashed out, but he was actually unable to break the 2 halberds with his first strike. By the time Lin Jun slashed out a second time and took down the 2 gladiators, Fu Qingfeng, who had been waiting for an opportunity, made his move. Lin Jun, today I will let you know what it means to be an ace gladiator. An extremely fierce sword light burst out from the crowd and headed straight for Lin Jun. As a mid-stage deity, Fu Qingfeng's sword was shockingly powerful. Even though Lin Jun's armor had turned into metal, he didn't dare to take it head-on. He could only brandish his twin swords to block it. The sword chi left a bloody groove on Lin Jun's body, and the wound was so deep that his bones could be seen. This was the most serious injury Lin Jun had suffered since he turned into metal armor. Lin Jun raised his eyebrows and counterattacked with his heart sword. A formless sword net enveloped the area, but Fu Qingfeng seemed to have been prepared. He quickly dodged, and Lin Jun's heart sword didn't hit him. Instead, it cut 3 or 4 gladiators behind him into pieces. Lin Jun, there's still enough time. I'll play with you slowly. Fu Qingfeng's body turned into a stream of light as he shuttled through the crowd, looking for the next opportunity to attack. The gladiators behind him were still desperately attacking, and Lin Jun had no time to chase after Fu Qingfeng. Now was the time to fight, and he wouldn't let any of the White Tiger Hall's gladiators pass the mountain peak. A long battle had begun. This time, there was no black hole to devour, and no avatar to help. Lin Jun relied on the strength of his main body to fight these fierce gladiators. Corpses continued to pile up around him, gradually forming a wall. It was difficult for ordinary gladiators to pose a threat to Lin Jun. The one who posed the greatest threat to him was Fu Qingfeng. This ace gladiator's attack power was very strong. Every time he attacked, the angle of his attack was also very tricky. It was impossible to guard against him. Every time he attacked, he would cause deep wounds to Lin Jun. This showed the strength of an ace gladiator. After a 40-minute battle, nearly 200 of the 300 gladiators present had fallen. Under the island, the rolling waves were surging. The last high tide was about to arrive. As the tide fluctuated, the gladiators became even crazier. No matter how strong Lin Jun was, they had to defeat him. If they couldn't break through Lin Jun's defense line, they would be swallowed by the tide. Fu Qingfeng raised his arms and shouted from behind, "Brothers! The final moment has arrived. Lin Jun is about to die. Put in more effort and finish him off. The gladiators of the White Tiger Hall were all glowing. The crazy scene in front of them didn't frighten them. Instead, it made them even more excited. A tall gladiator stepped on the corpses of his companions and jumped over. He swung the two battle axes in his hands left and right. Even Lin Jun couldn't face a gladiator who was at the peak of the divine perception realm head-on with a spirit artifact heavy weapon. His two swords moved at the speed of light, cutting off the gladiator's arms. However, the gladiator's body slammed heavily into Lin Jun's body. Lin Jun took a step back. Before he could shake off the gladiator's body, a long spear pierced through the gladiator's lower abdomen and stabbed into Lin Jun's. He grabbed the long spear with one hand, wanting to shake it off. However, 3 or 4 long swords came at him at lightning speed. He lowered his head and used the shoulder armor to block the long swords. At this time, Fu Qingfeng seized the opportunity to attack again. The sword light tore through the air like a bolt of lightning, striking one of Lin Jun's arms. The angle and timing were perfect. Lin Jun didn't expect this sword to be so sudden. His left arm was actually cut off. After losing an arm, he lost his balance. Fu Qingfeng roared from behind, "Now is the time. Brothers, attack!" Everything seemed to have gone out of control. The remaining 100 or so gladiators howled and charged forward. The first gladiator knocked Lin Jun back, the second gladiator knocked him off balance, and the third gladiator almost knocked Lin Jun to the ground. The fourth, fifth, sixth, 10 gladiators, 20 gladiators. Countless beams of light formed by stellar power shot into the sky. Lin Jun finally lost his footing and fell to the ground. Attack! He's down! Attack together! Kill him! Tear him apart! The gladiators howled and charged forward. The gladiators at the back pressed down on the gladiators in front. Even if they couldn't attack, they still pressed forward, determined not to give Lin Jun any chance to turn the tables. It looked like Lin Jun would not be able to turn the tables. Fu Qingfeng heaved a long sigh of relief. It was all thanks to him that these gladiators had gathered their courage. With so many of them attacking together, Lin Jun wouldn't be able to resist. Now, no one could stop him from heading to the mountain peak. Fu Qingfeng strode forward. Just as he took a step forward, the space in front of him warped, and a starry sky appeared. Star River Domain. The stars pressed against each other, and a powerful gravitational force acted on the crowd. Over 100 gladiators were instantly crushed into meat paste. Dark red blood flowed like a river. These 100 gladiators had all died under the gravitational force of the stars. Starlight burst forth, and with a boom, Lin Jun suddenly charged out of the crowd. One of his arms had not recovered, but this did not affect his speed. He instantly appeared in front of Fu Qingfeng. Fu Qingfeng's eyes were bloodshot at this moment, and he seemed to want to perish together with Lin Jun. He stabbed his sword at Lin Jun's chest. Lin Jun did not dodge. He had the indestructible spirit body, so he wouldn't die even if his heart was pierced. He waved one hand and a sword aura appeared in his palm. He also stabbed at Fu Qingfeng's chest. At this moment, a huge wave rose up. The final tide had arrived, and this was the strike that would determine victory. Pooh! The sword pierced through the body and blood spurted out. Both of their hearts were pierced through at the same time. Fu Qingfeng thought that Lin Jun would fall, but Lin Jun did not. Lin Jun thought that Fu Qingfeng would fall, but he did not fall either. Lin Jun's face was filled with shock and disbelief. His sword aura had not only pierced through his opponent's chest, but it had also shattered it. How could he not die? Haha, Lin Jun, have you heard of the heaven-seizing race? The heart of our race is naturally on the right side. Your sword only pierced through my lung lobe. Fu Qingfeng was very sure that Lin Jun could no longer stop him. After losing an arm and having his heart pierced, no matter how strong his body was, his combat strength would be greatly reduced. He wanted to backhand Lin Jun again, but suddenly, the sound of water came from below. Splash! Huge waves surged, and the waves swept over. At this moment, Lin Jun suddenly grabbed Fu Qingfeng's arm. You want to leave? Stay here with me. Fu Qingfeng's face changed drastically. He did not expect that Lin Jun would want to perish together with him. Victory was already in sight. How could he die together with Lin Jun? He attacked with the strongest attack of his life. Heaven's sweeping sword technique. Destructive lightning. Chapter 882. The civil war between the White Tiger Hall's gladiators was over. Before the battle, everyone's guesses were all in vain. No one guessed correctly. Before the battle, people admired Lin Jun's courage, but no one thought that Lin Jun could win, unless Qin Yuan's Three Chivalrous Society made a move. However, the Three Chivalrous Society didn't make a move. Instead, Qin Yuan led his men and the dragon riders to the peak. In this way, Lin Jun had no chance of winning. However, the outcome of the battle was too unexpected. Lin Jun first used the black hole to eliminate most of the opponent's enemies. Then, after a life-and-death battle, he used his domain power to kill the remaining enemies, leaving only him and Fu Qingfeng to fight. Fu Qingfeng was indeed an ace gladiator. His attacks were decisive and his tactics were appropriate. He used the fact that his heart was naturally on the right side to deceive Lin Jun and severely injured Lin Jun. However, Fu Qingfeng didn't get the final victory in that situation. Lin Jun grabbed him with one hand, and the two of them hit each other with their strongest attacks at the same time. Fu Qingfeng's sword almost cut Lin Jun in half. As for Lin Jun's black lightning, it blasted Fu Qingfeng into smithereens. Fu Qingfeng was turned into ashes on the spot. However, Lin Jun dragged half of his body and walked through the entrance of the peak before the tide hit him. He successfully reached the top of the mountain. As the last tide spread over, the virtual battlefield ended. Lin Jun successfully entered the top 10,000 and obtained the opportunity to go to the Eye of the Storm. As for White Tiger Hall, one of the three major guilds in Heavenly Square City, none of them entered the Eye of the Storm. Everyone thought that White Tiger Hall was finished. If 3,000 people couldn't take down a Three Flowers, this guild had no future. Countless members of White Tiger Hall chose to withdraw from the guild. One of the three major guilds, which used to be glorious, declined. And Lin Jun's name became famous in Heavenly Square City. Not only in Heavenly Square City, but within a few million light years, Lin Jun's name was well known. When this name was mentioned, many people would give him a thumbs up. I know Lin Jun. He's that strong and brave gladiator. I have high hopes for this guy. He can achieve good results in the Eye of the Storm. After the virtual battlefield ended, there were still 3 months before the Eye of the Storm opened. This was another piece of news from Heavenly Square City. Lin Jun, who had made a name for himself in the virtual battlefield, was going to open an elixir shop. Almost half of the people in Heavenly Square City had read Lin Jun's information. After knowing that this famous fighter in the virtual battlefield was also a saint-level alchemist, they immediately prostrated themselves in admiration. There were also some people who voiced their doubts, thinking that Lin Jun was too young. They didn't know if the title of saint-level alchemist was true or false. Many data emperors even began to calculate Lin Jun's age accurately. How could he become a saint-level alchemist at such a young age? Excluding the time for eating and sleeping, even if Lin Jun didn't cultivate and used all his remaining time to refine elixirs, it wouldn't be enough. However, Lin Jun was also a three-flower fighter. This matter didn't make sense no matter how one looked at it. Those data emperors and Lin Jun's supporters had been arguing on the internet for many days. The opponents used data to speak while the supporters used the word genius to explain. No one could convince the other. Among them, there was an old gang of a medicine shop opened by a level 7 alchemist in Heavenly Square City. He personally denounced Lin Jun as a liar. This level 7 alchemist was called Lin Yan. He was the boss of the most popular medicine shop in Heavenly Square City. He had opened his medicine shop here for over 10,000 years. Almost everyone in Heavenly Square City knew about his Huichun house. His message in the dimensional universe was as follows: the ignorant Lin Jun is nothing more than a martial arts fanatic. People like him can be found everywhere in the martial arts world and aren't rare. However, practicing martial arts and refining elixirs are two completely different paths. There are countless martial artists, but there isn't a single saint-level alchemist in the entire Heavenly Square City. Lin Jun is nothing more than a liar. Even if he started refining elixirs in his mother's womb, he can only become a level 6 alchemist at most. I didn't expect this person to boast shamelessly and call himself a saint-level alchemist. He's simply shameless to the extreme. It's fine if he doesn't open his medicine shop. If he dares to open his medicine shop, this old man will personally go there and expose him. It didn't matter what others said. However, as a veteran level 7 alchemist, Lin Yan's words were still very persuasive. Hearing his words, more people in Heavenly Square City began to question Lin Jun, his identity, and the authenticity of his elixirs. People were also waiting for Lin Jun's medicine shop to open. They must come and see for themselves. There was one of the busiest commercial streets in Heavenly Square City. There was a shop on the commercial street, which originally belonged to Klinsman's family. Now it had become Lin Jun's medicine shop. He was also the only gladiator of White Tiger Hall who finally reached the top of the mountain. After Klinsman left the virtual battlefield, Lin Jun immediately took him to find a demon fighter at the Divine Sense stage and killed him, making him a 1-star warrior. After becoming a 1-star warrior, Klinsman was free from the control of the arena. He immediately joined Lin Jun and became the chief steward of the medicine shop. This shop, which covered an area of more than 1,000 square meters, was bought by Lin Jun with an IOU of 20 million yuan. If it were someone else, Klinsman would never accept an IOU, but Lin Jun was different. Lin Jun gave him the opportunity to enter the eye of the storm, which was priceless. What was more, Lin Jun told Klinsman that he might get back the 20 million yuan in one day. Since Klinsman was working with Lin Jun, he certainly wouldn't care about such trivial matters. He immediately agreed. The medicine shop began to be renovated and soon the shelves were built. Lin Jun lived alone in the back hall of the medicine shop, where he usually practiced alchemy. The day before the opening, Lin Jun sat in the back hall with a water mirror in front of him. Siam grass, 1,000 miles incense, star fantasy stone. These three main ingredients are the key to my advancement to the middle stage of the three-flower realm. With these three ingredients, I can quickly refine the flower cultivation pill of the flower of qi. The money is not the most important thing. What I really need now is this. Lin Jun tapped a few times in the air and soon turned to a page. On the page was a huge bronze bell called the Ethereal Divine Bell. This divine bell had a very special function, which was that it contained the power of the law of time. Using this god clock to cultivate, one could slow down the flow of time around them. There were 24 hours in a day. Normally, the bell would ring for an hour. However, this divine bell could slow down the speed up to 24 times and only ring once a day. As long as the user had enough astral power and understood the law of time, they could activate the divine bell to cultivate in a state where time was slowed down. When Lin Jun was in the new territories, he had obtained a pocket watch and a time stone, so he had a deep understanding of the law of time. However, everything was different after he arrived in the primordial realm. Everything in the new territories was no longer the same here. For example, the time on Earth was set according to the sun's rise in the east and set in the west. It was based on a star. The time in the primordial realm was set according to the laws of the universe, which was countless times more profound than in the new territories. Lin Jun's law of time was no longer as useful. After many years of hard work, he could barely accelerate or decelerate when attacking, and the effect was not ideal. Ever since he learned about the Hall of the Exalted and the titled king from Chen Yuan, Lin Zhen realized what he lacked the most at the moment. What he lacked the most was time. Although in the eyes of others, it was already unimaginable that Lin Zhen could cultivate to this level at the age of more than 1,000 years old, in Lin Zhen's opinion, it was not enough. The environment he was in required him to have stronger strength. However, even if he swallowed the elixir, it would take time to digest the medicinal efficacy. What he lacked the most was time to adapt to the new environment. Therefore, when he saw that the divine bell would be auctioned in a month's time at the Sky City auction house yesterday, Lin Zhen decided to buy it. Although the starting price of this divine bell was as high as 1 billion, this kind of thing could no longer be regarded as a spiritual treasure. It belonged to a higher level called a supreme treasure. The purchasing power of the currency in the endless battlefield was very strong. It was rare to see an item with a starting price of 1 billion. 1 billion. This is just the starting price. What's the final price? As far as I know, there are already many people who have set their eyes on this god clock. They won't let me have it just because it's called Lin Zhen. Therefore, I need to prepare a large amount of wealth during this period of time. There's still a month left. I don't know how much wealth I can accumulate. I estimate that I will need at least 3 billion to buy this divine bell. Time. If I can successfully drive this divine bell and master the law of time deceleration, then I will have a lot of time. This will be my weapon to catch up with other masters. Lin Zhen calculated silently in his heart. Most of his elixirs had been placed outside. After the opening tomorrow, he didn't know how much money he could make. What he had the greatest hope for was still the 9 transformation golden pill. Only this kind of elixir could make a lot of money. While he was calculating, Klinsman ran in. "Boss, that Li Nian is talking nonsense in the dimensional universe again." "What did he say again?" "That old thing found a large group of people in the dimensional universe. Many of them are in the elixir industry. These people are very against you now. They said that when our medicine shop opens tomorrow, they must give us a good show and squeeze you out of the elixir market." "Oh, this old man is quite ambitious. It seems that squeezing me out of the market will benefit him a lot." "Yes, this old man is a grade 7 alchemist. He has always regarded himself as the strongest alchemist in Sky Square City. In terms of alchemy, this old man has high attainment. Boss, you have to be careful. Don't fail miserably." Lin Zhen smiled and nodded. "Don't worry. The person who can take advantage of me hasn't been born yet. Since he wants to come, let him come. It will be a good advertisement for our medicine shop." "Okay. With your words, I'm relieved. I'll go prepare first." Chapter 883. Crackle. Firecrackers sounded on the streets of Heavenly Square City. It was a medicinal pill store called Golden Pill Store that opened for business today. Before the store opened, a large number of people had already gathered at the entrance of the store, waiting for the opening of the store. After the firecrackers ended, the store opened and people poured in. The store was bustling with people. The store's employees who had long been prepared were greeting customers loudly, filling prescriptions and collecting receipts. They were extremely busy. Such a scene rarely happened in Heavenly Square City in the past. A newly opened medicinal pill store had to go through a long period of accumulation of customers before gradually making a name for itself and making money. It was rare for a newly opened medicinal pill store to be so popular. The reason was none other than the owner of this medicinal pill store was Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen was now the most popular figure in Heavenly Square City. Originally, after the virtual battlefield ended, Lin Zhen's popularity should have decreased. However, because of opening this medicinal pill store, he attracted the suspicion of the big shots of Heavenly Square City's medicinal pill industry. They claimed that they were here to cause trouble. On the contrary, it pushed Lin Zhen's popularity to a peak. Of the people who came, some came because of Lin Zhen's fame, Some came because of Lin Zhen's reputation as a saint-grade alchemist, and even more people came to watch the fun. They wanted to see the good show that was going to happen here today. Lin Zhen's opponents, doubters, and supporters were so noisy that the store almost couldn't hold all of them. Many people came here with the mood of watching a good show. However, they found many medicinal pills here were actually very good. For example, Yuan Gathering Powder was more effective in condensing star force than other medicinal pill stores. Frost Mist Pill was also more effective in resolving the side effects of medicinal pills. Not all alchemists could master the Icefire Pill refining technique. As Lin Zhen's comprehension of elemental force deepened day by day, the quality of his medicinal pills also reached a higher level. Any pill refined by him would be of the highest grade. There were many employees who were temporarily recruited by Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen paid them a high salary. However, they would only be paid at the end of the month. Now, they were so busy that their faces were beaming with smiles. Judging from the speed of selling medicinal pills, it was a piece of cake to pay their salaries. In the center of the medicinal pill store was the treasure of Lin Zhen's store, the 9 Transformation Golden Pill. The reason why it was called Golden Pill Store was that the 9 Transformation Golden Pill was Lin Zhen's trademark. The words resurrection were extremely eye-catching. Moreover, Lin Zhen's 9 Transformation Golden Pill was a limited supply. At most 3 pills a day, and people had to bid to buy them. Nearly half of the people in Golden Pill Store were crowded in front of the 9 Transformation Golden Pill Store, wanting to see what this miraculous medicine that could resurrection looked like. Looking at the crowd in front of him, Klinsmann shouted, "Everyone! The price! The highest price! Price!" Hearing this number, the people below began to clamor loudly. The purchasing power of the currency in Endless Battlefield was relatively strong. The millionaires here were almost the same as the billionaires on the surface. Many people who wanted to buy it heard the price and felt that it was too expensive. But there were also some really rich people who sneered. "You poor people. Don't be so whimsical. 10 million for a life is worth it. Stand back if you don't have the money. Yes, if it can really buy a life, let alone 10 million, even 30 million is worth it. I just don't know how effective it is." Although many people said it was worth it, no one acted rashly because they were still skeptical about the effect of the 9 Transformation Golden Pill. After all, Lin Zhen was too young. Being strong didn't mean that he was good at alchemy. Just as people were discussing, a group of people squeezed in from outside. These people were wearing very luxurious clothes. Although their strength wasn't particularly outstanding as martial artists, they were at least in the immortality realm. These people were the bosses of Heavenly Square City's medicinal pill store. The person who led the way was a tall old man. He was the boss of Rejuvenation Hall, the largest medicinal pill store in Heavenly Square City, Lin Yan. Lin Yan walked in the front. There was a group of guards beside him. They shouted and separated the crowd, making a path for these bosses. Seeing the troublemakers coming, the surrounding people automatically moved to the sides, leaving the most spacious place in the room for them. "Get out of the way. Boss Li is here. Boss Zhao of Benevolence Square is here too. Boss Ma of Hanging Pot Hall is here too. Even the medicinal ingredient wholesaler is here. These are all big shots. No way. How can a medicinal ingredient seller be considered a big shot? You are an amateur. Although these people aren't very strong, they are at least in the immortality realm. They don't have to worry about their lives. Most importantly, they are rich. Each of them has at least 1 billion. They can easily hire divine transformation powerhouses as bodyguard. Don't you think they are powerful?" "Yes. I heard that some medicinal ingredient store owners in big cities can even hire demigods as bodyguards." "Yes, money is also a part of strength. These people can't be offended. It seems that Lin Zhen is in a bit of trouble." These bosses came to the center of the hall. The guards immediately took out some chairs for the bosses to sit down. Lin Yan's palm gently stroked the handle of the chair and said slowly, "Honored guests have arrived. Where is your boss? Why haven't you come out to welcome your peers? If you don't know the rules, how can you establish yourself in the pill industry of Sky Square City?" Lin Jun, who heard the news, immediately walked out from the back hall. Lin Jun's appearance attracted a large number of people around to take photos with the dimensional universe. The flashes flickered fiercely as if a superstar had appeared. In Sky Square City, Lin Jun was indeed a superstar. There were even screams of women around. Some people were clapping desperately and shouting Lin Jun's name. The scene was hot and chaotic. This made Lin Yan and the others' expressions a little ugly. Lin Jun was also quite close to the people. He shook hands with his supporters, hugged them, signed autographs, and took photos. This made his fans very excited. Lin Jun, can I ask you, when you were in the virtual battlefield, you were almost chopped off, but you still managed to walk to the top of the mountain. What kind of perseverance supported you to do so? Yes, I also want to ask this question. You can still walk when your body is chopped off. If your lower body is chopped off, can you still deal with it? I'm very curious. Lin Jun, can I take a picture with you? Why don't you put your arm around my waist? Smile, 1, 2, 3 eggplant. After a while, Lin Yan finally couldn't stand it anymore. She slapped the armrest of the chair fiercely. Lin Jun, are you done yet? Can't you see that we're sitting here? Lin Jun took the time to look at Lin Yan and the others. Oh, no hurry. I'll drive you out later. Lin Yan was furious when she heard this. She stood up at once. Lin Jun, don't be too arrogant. Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you got a good result in the virtual battlefield. This is Sky Square City, a place with laws and regulations. If you dare to be rough with us here, the city guards will naturally take care of you. His voice was very loud, attracting people's attention. The room gradually quieted down. Lin Jun also walked to Lin Yan and the others at this time. Every country has its own laws and regulations. I'm clear about these things. I don't intend to be rough with you, but I won't treat you as human beings either. Since you want to cause trouble here, then you should be prepared to be slapped in the face. Lin Yan sneered. Lin Jun, you don't have to talk nonsense here. We know you won't give us a good face, but it doesn't matter. Since we're here today, we're here to cause trouble for you. The elixir industry in Sky Square City must be a pure land. A useless black sheep like you should be cleared out. Lin Jun also pulled out a chair at this time and sat in front of Lin Yan and the others. I think you should have seen my information. I'm the honorary vice president of the Alchemist Association headquarters in the Yuan realm, a saint-level alchemist. Don't you believe this title? At this time, a fat boss next to him said, Don't mention anything about the surface to us. There are many things that can be cheated. Even some emperors are spies of the D-clan. What else is there to believe? That's right. If you're really a saint-level alchemist, how can you still be the honorary vice president? Don't we know what the word honor represents? It means that no matter what, you're already a saint-level alchemist. Why did you come all the way to Sky Square City to suffer? Don't treat us as 3-year-old children because you're a liar. The endless sea of stars and the surface of the Yuan realm didn't communicate with each other. These people had heard some things about Lin Jun, but it was very one-sided. Moreover, there were many people spreading Lin Jun's resume by word of mouth. Many of his resumes had been distorted, which made people not believe him. Lin Jun didn't want to explain more on this issue. He just said lightly, Whether you want to believe it or not, you can't do anything to me. Even if I have an empty title, it still exists. As for you guys vowing to expose me, you're not planning to rely on your glib tongue here, right? At this time, Lin Yan smiled and said, Lin Jun, don't flaunt your glib tongue. Since we're here, we're fully prepared. Whether you're a saint-level alchemist or not, we'll see the results soon. Beside Lin Yan, A chubby boss stood up from his chair. Lin Jin, I'm Zhao Yan from the Benevolence Workshop. Let me ask you, as an alchemist, do you know what's the most important thing? Lin Jin said lightly, fire. That's right, it's fire. My Benevolence Workshop has been in Sky Square City for many years. Refining Jindan depends on the right temperature. If you, Lin Jin, are really a capable alchemist, how about competing with me in the art of controlling fire? Lin Jin shook his head directly, no. Zhao Yan suddenly laughed, you're scared. Chapter 884. Zhao Yan was stunned for a moment. What risk do I have to take? Lin Jin sneered. Don't play dumb with me. Do you think that just because you came knocking on my door, I would obediently endure it? You can doubt my ability, but I don't have the time to play with you. You want to compete in fire control? Okay, but what if you lose? Do you want to just leave? Then what do you want? Very simple, pay up. If I lose, I'll close down. If you lose, you have to pay me 100 million. Zhao Yan was a little hesitant. He was a 6th grade alchemist and believed that his fire control skills were not bad. He dared to bet with Lin Jin because they believed that Lin Jin was a fake. It was impossible for him to have high alchemy skills. But what if their judgment was wrong? What if Lin Jin was really a saint-level alchemist? Wouldn't that be asking for humiliation and disgrace? Moreover, Lin Jin asked for an exorbitant price. If he lost, he would have to pay 100 million. This was not a small amount. Although he had a net worth of more than $1 billion, it would be difficult for him to take out 100 million in cash. Seeing that Zhao Yan was a little scared, Lin Yan said, bet with him. But Lin Jin, since you asked, Zhao Yan is not the only one who wants to bet with you. Boss Ma of the Hanging Pot Hall, me, and my friends all want to experience your alchemy skills. You have to accept all of them. Lin Jin's gaze swept across the few people on their side. Zhao Yan and Boss Ma were 6th grade alchemists. Lin Yan was 7th grade alchemist. There was also a person who was covered in a black robe. His face could not be seen clearly. Lin Jin's spiritual power swept over and felt that this person's aura was a little dark. He understood something. He pondered for a moment. Is it 100 million for each round? Lin Yan and the others quietly discussed for a while. In the end, Lin Yan said, no, the price of each round is doubled. If you have the courage, accept it. If you don't, admit that you are a liar. A saint-level alchemist can't not have the courage to accept our challenge. With that, he also said to Lin Jin, my friend is also a 7th grade alchemist like me. None of us is a saint-level alchemist. Do you dare to accept it? But if you lose one round, you will have to close down and get out of the elixir market in Sky City forever. Without waiting for Lin Jin to speak, Klinsmann suddenly became anxious and ran to Lin Jin's side. Boss, you can't be fooled. This is obviously a trap. Even a saint-level alchemist can't be proficient in all alchemy method. The price of each round is doubled. As long as you win a round, you'll earn back your capital and interest. You can't afford to lose a round. The shop assistant next to him also said, yes, boss. This is obviously a scam. You can't be fooled. Lin Jin's supporters also scolded, saying that Lin Yan and the others deliberately set up a trap for Lin Jin. How could there be such an unfair bet? Each of the 4 of them would definitely be proficient in a particular alchemy skill. 4 against 1, the possibility of Lin Jin losing was too high. But those who doubted Lin Jin at this time refuted triumphantly, what do you know? This kid claims to be a saint-level alchemist. Do you know the difference between saint-level and 6th-level alchemists? It's like the difference between a teacher and students. Just because 4 students asked a question to the teacher won't answer it? If he can't answer it, it means that he is a fake teacher. Yes. You don't even dare to accept the challenge of a 6th-level or 7th-level alchemist. How dare you claim to be a saint-level alchemist? Hurry up and close down. A group of people behind followed Lin Yan. Obviously, they were organized and their voices were very loud. Klinsmann and the others' faces were a little pale. Today's matter was not going to end well. When the scene calmed down, Lin Zhen slowly said, "Since you have thought it through, then sign the contract in the dimensional universe. No one can go back on their word." This time, it was Lin Yan and the others' turn to feel uncertain. They didn't expect Lin Zhen to agree. This was a little different from their plan. In their plan, Lin Zhen must be a fake saint-level alchemist. But now, it was a little difficult to back down. More importantly, they felt that they couldn't lose. Their plan was very thorough. Even if Lin Zhen really had the strength of a saint-level alchemist, the possibility of him winning was very small. Lin Yan gritted her teeth. Since you are so bold, then sign it. No one can go back on their word." Lin Zhen, Lin Yan, Zhao Yan, Matthew, and another black-robed man named Lalati, the five of them collectively signed the contract. Lin Zhen was on one side, and the other four were on the other side. Both sides were betting on alchemy skills. Lin Yan's side proposed the content of the bet. The bet for the first round was 100 million, and the amount for each subsequent round would be doubled. The second round was 200 million, the third round was 400 million, and the fourth round was 800 million. In the process, if Lin Zhen lost one round, the money he won would be returned, and the Golden Pill Workshop would close down. The few of them signed, and the bet was established. It was impossible for anyone to go back on their word. The onlookers moved away from the middle of the hall, leaving a space for them. Like every big event, the scene of the bet between the two sides began to be broadcasted live, and it quickly became a hot topic. Countless people left comments. It could be imagined that if Lin Zhen won this bet, then he would instantly gain a foothold in the alchemy industry in Sky City and occupy the commanding position. No one else would be able to compete with him. Zhao Yan was the first to walk out. Facing Lin Zhen, Zhao Yan said confidently, "Lin Zhen, I want to compete with you on fire-controlling skills." "How?" Lin Zhen asked. "I wonder if you have heard of fire-fighting skills?" Lin Zhen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Oh, you actually know about fire-fighting skills?" This fire-fighting skill was a kind of fire-controlling skill of alchemists. Two alchemists would each use an ice heart pill. This kind of pill was very afraid of fire, but there was a layer of fireproof layer on the outside. If this layer of fireproof layer was broken, then the pill would melt. The alchemist would wrap the pill with his mental power, let this ice heart pill be the heart, and then drive the flame to attack the other party. The other party could also use the flame to resist and counterattack at the same time. Whoever could quickly break the other party's ice heart pill would win. Moreover, if one party turned the flame into a certain shape to attack, the other party would not be able to transform again. It had to follow the principle of mutual promotion and restraint. Whoever repeated it would be judged as the loser. This method not only tested the alchemist's mental power level and flame control level, but it also tested the alchemist's imagination. For example, if one party condensed the flame into a short knife, it might be restrained by the other party's flame spear. Therefore, the alchemist's imagination accounted for half of the victory and defeat factors, while the mental power level and flame intensity also accounted for half. Looking at Zhao Yan's confident appearance, Lin Zhen knew that this guy must have played this kind of game often. However, Lin Zhen was not afraid of him. Lin Zhen had also played fire-fighting skills before, and he was quite good at it. Coupled with Lin Zhen's own flame intensity and mental power, he could definitely defeat this Zhao Yan. "Good, then let's start with fire-fighting skills." Zhao Yan clapped his hands and someone brought a huge crystal cover over. The two people's fire-fighting skills would be held inside the crystal cover. The Ice Heart pill was also used to resolve the side effects of pills. It was not a rare pill. Lin Zhen's Golden Pill Workshop had some. He took out two of them, one for each person. Zhao Yan activated his mental power and enveloped the pill. Then, flames covered the pill, forming a round fireball. The flame showed a light green color and was incomparably hot. A light green flame was already very strong for an ordinary alchemist, but Lin Jun obviously wouldn't put it in his eyes. Above light green, there was medium green, dark green, and then bright green. Looking at the intensity of Zhao Yan's flame, it might never advance to dark green, let alone bright green. Lin Jun raised his hand, and a similar light green flame rose. Since they were playing fire-fighting skills, then it would be meaningless if the difference in flame intensity was too great. When Zhao Yan and the rest saw the intensity of Lin Jun's flame, they were delighted. It seemed that Lin Jun indeed knew how to refine pills, but he was definitely not a Saint-tier alchemist. Lin Jun, you can fool around in the Yuan realm, but you definitely can't do it here. Today, I will let you know the difference between the Yuan realm and Sky City. The flame controlled by mental power suddenly distorted and turned into a small sparrow. It pecked at Lin Jun's fireball. He concentrated the flame energy on the sparrow's beak. As long as it hit the fireball, it might be able to break the outer layer of the ice heart pill. The outer layer was very fragile and couldn't withstand the attack. Lin Jun sneered. Zhao Yan's mental power was at the peak of dark gold. There was an entire realm difference between him and Lin Jun. Lin Jun could completely crush Zhao Yan with his strength. However, he was also a little playful at this moment. If he revealed too much strength at the beginning, it wouldn't be beneficial for the subsequent bet. With a thought, the fireball in his hand also changed. A flaming eagle formed in the air, spread its wings, and was about to swallow the sparrow. The eagle restrained the sparrow, so Zhao Yan had to respond. This kind of control required meticulous mental power and rich experience. Seeing that Lin Jun could easily form the flame, Zhao Yan's face changed. Not bad. Look at this. The sparrow spun in the air and turned into a red-crowned crane. With a long beak and long claws, it was about to attack the eagle. Lin Jun's mental power moved again, and the eagle turned into a green WYRM. It spat out clouds and fog and attacked the red-crowned crane again. A green WYRM isn't a dragon after all. I'll let you see my true dragon. His red-crowned crane shook its body and turned into a 5-clawed golden dragon. It pounced on the green WYRM again. Lin Jun smiled faintly. The green WYRM turned into a golden-winged rock. The golden-winged rock fed on the WYRM. At this point, Zhao Yan's forehead was already sweating. Lin Jun's control and adaptability made him feel extremely uncomfortable. He gradually felt powerless. However, he couldn't admit defeat. He exerted his strength again, and the golden dragon turned into a swanee. Your rock may be strong, but don't think about swallowing my swanee. Lin Jun remained silent. The rock turned into a jade qilin again. Seeing this, Zhao Yan's face lit up. The swanee shook and turned into a black hole beast. Chapter 885. Zhao Yan's fireball turned into a black hole beast and swallowed Lin Jun's jade qilin. Lin Jun seemed to have run out of ideas. The jade qilin shivered as it turned into a fireball and was swallowed by the black hole beast. Zhao Yan laughed heartily. He had won this battle of fire techniques. The other three didn't need to fight anymore. It was over. Lin Jun was also smiling. No, your ice heart pill isn't damaged. Zhao Yan's expression changed. Lin Jun used his mind and the fireball turned into a huge balloon. It quickly expanded in Zhao Yan's black hole beast. The black hole beast's stomach quickly swelled and started to expand infinitely. Finally, it couldn't withstand the expansion of the balloon and exploded with a bang. The ice heart pill was damaged and melted by Lin Jun's flames. Zhao Yan lost. This is impossible. Zhao Yan roared in disbelief. Lin Jun sneered. Nothing is impossible. You actually dared to turn the fireball into a black hole beast. Don't you know that you can only imitate the black hole beast's appearance but not its spirit? The black hole beast is strong because of the black hole in its body. What makes you think you can imitate the black hole? A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. You only know how to imitate but don't have the ability to swallow. Your black hole beast is just a paper tiger. Get out of here. Zhao Yan's face was ashen. He only knew that the black hole beast was strong, but he couldn't imitate its ability. Moreover, he had to imitate it in front of Lin Zhen, the real black hole beast. After obediently handing over 100 million, Zhao Yan retreated in defeat with his face covered in dirt. Seeing Zhao Yan lose, Lin Yan and the others felt conflicted. They hoped that Lin Zhen would lose, but they also hoped that Lin Zhen would lose to them. Now that Zhao Yan lost, they didn't know if they should be happy or disappointed. Only Lin Zhen's supporters were clapping and cheering for Lin Zhen. The second person to appear on the stage was Mr. Matthew. Matthew was a thin man. He arrived in front of Lin Zhen and said, "Lin Zhen, your ability to control fire is indeed good, but alchemy isn't just about fire. It requires years of accumulation. I want to compete with you in picking herbs." Lin Zhen nodded. Okay. The two men came to Lin Zhen's herb counter. Together, Matthew and Lin Zhen wrote down the names of 30 herbs and the quantities to be caught. Lin Zhen, let's use 30 seconds. Whoever can complete the most, the best, and the most accurate wins. Then let's begin. A scale was placed in front of each of them. As time passed, the scales began to move at the same time. Matthew believed that he had reached the pinnacle in this regard. It took countless years of experience to master the art of concocting herbs. He did not believe that Lin Zhen could surpass him at such a young age. Even if Lin Zhen was a saint-level alchemist, his time would definitely be immersed in refining pills. He wouldn't spend too much time on such a useless skill like picking herbs. But when compared, he realized that there was always someone better. Lin Zhen's speed could be described as ghostly. He was like a breeze, shuttling in front of the herb counter. Every time he reached out, he was as fast as lightning, accurately grabbing each herb. Matthew was also very powerful, but he was completely suppressed by Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen would intentionally or unintentionally block in front of him every time, slowing down his speed and making him lose his rhythm. His performance was getting worse and worse. Lin Zhen was about to finish, but he only managed to grab 5 herbs. The people around them shook their heads as they watched. The difference between the two of them was too great. Lin Zhen wasn't only better than him in terms of skill, but his speed was also too fast. After all, Lin Zhen was very strong as a warrior. He completely pushed Matthew to the back. 30 seconds passed. Lin Zhen finished grabbing the last herb and placed it on the scale. Before Lin Zhen could speak, Matthew suddenly attacked Lin Zhen's scale. Matthew was also an immortal expert. He wasn't weak. With a casual attack, all the herbs on Lin Zhen's scale fell to the ground. Ha ha! Time's up. Lin Zhen, you're too naive. We're competing in picking herbs, but there's no restriction on destroying them. You don't even have a single herb. How can you compete with me? Seeing Matthew's arrogant appearance, the surrounding people angrily rebuked him. Old bastard! You can't afford to play. Yeah, what's this? You don't want to admit your loss? He's simply taking advantage of his seniority. This old man cheated. However, there were also people who supported Matthew. They were the people they brought with them. They loudly argued with Lin Zhen's supporters. They thought that the time was up. Whoever had more herbs on the scale would win. Lin Zhen lowered his head and looked at the herbs that were floating in the air. Some of them fell back to the scale. Lin Zhen pointed at the scale and said, "Since this round is established, I still have herbs on the scale. Does this mean that I win?" Matthew froze for a moment and said, "What's your dregs? I still have so much on the scale. Where are my herbs?" Matthew lowered his head and suddenly found that his scale was empty. Not a single herb was left. Not even a speck of dust was left. It was cleaner than washing with water. The others were also stunned. Everyone had been looking at Lin Zhen's scale. No one noticed when Matthew's herbs were gone. At this time, Lin Zhen suddenly raised his left hand. All the herbs on the palm of his left hand seemed to be sucked in by a suction cup. They were firmly turned into a ball in his palm. They're all here. Ah. When did this happen? Matthew was shocked. Just when you made a move on my medicinal herbs, I took all of your medicinal herbs. It's just that I didn't say anything because my medicinal herbs exploded and floated up and fell down a little, but yours didn't have any. Lin Jun sneered and suddenly said sternly, Matthew, you lost to me when it comes to concocting herbs, and you're far from being able to cheat. How dare you play this game in front of me? You're digging your own grave. Cut the crap, hand over the 200 million immediately, and, all of a sudden, Lin Jun smashed the medicinal materials in his hand onto Matthew's face. You damaged my medicinal materials on purpose. Now compensate me according to the price. If you can't do it, I will let you know the power of the strongest gladiator in Heavenly Square City. Matthew was directly hit by Lin Jun's herbs. With Lin Jun's means, even a piece of paper could be thrown out by him with the power of a missile. Matthew's face was swollen and his eyes were blue. After getting up, he murmured and wanted to say something, but Lin Yen and others didn't seem to see him. Lin Yen was also annoyed. If he lost, so be it. There was still him behind. Matthew just had to resort to such underhanded means. Lin Jun had taken advantage of his weakness and made him flaunt his authority. Now, he could not even bear to look at Matthew. Why would he care about his predicament? Matthew withered like a frosted eggplant. Now he finally realized that Lin Jun was not only an alchemist, but also a powerful warrior. He was definitely not someone he could compete with. He obediently handed over the money, and even wanted to compensate Lin Jun for the loss of his herbs. Those hired workers were also very perceptive. These herbs that were worth a few $1,000s were priced at a few $1 million by them. Matthew could only be angry but did not dare to say anything. Lin Jun had won 2 rounds in a row, and the 300 million was in his hands. He was secretly delighted. He was in dire need of money, and these fellows had caused such a ruckus. If he was lucky, he might even be able to get one. 5 billion today. Originally, Lin Jun thought that the third person to appear might be Lin Yen, but he didn't expect that the third person to be the mysterious black-robed man, Lalati. This Lalati wasn't tall. Even if he was wearing a black robe, he still looked a little petite in front of Lin Jun. When this person spoke, everyone knew that it was a woman. This time, among the people who came to cause trouble, Lalati's realm was the highest. He was actually in the middle stage of the god realm. His strength could be considered very strong. Although she was only a 7th-grade alchemist, Lin Jun felt that this woman was very powerful. She might even have the hope of advancing to the saint level in the future. In Lin Jun's view, her strength should be above Lin Yen, but he didn't expect her to be the third person to appear. The woman stood in front of Lin Jun and walked in circles. After a while, she slowly opened her mouth. Her voice was very pleasant, but her tone wasn't so pleasant. Lin Jun, before I compete with you, I'll give you a chance. Are you willing to be my exclusive alchemist? I can provide you with the best alchemy environment. I can guarantee that no one will dare to offend you. For a gang like White Tiger Hall, I can destroy them with just a word. Are you willing? So powerful? Not only that, if you agree, I can also provide you with 2 demigod-level guards. Don't you want to enter the Eye of the Storm? These 2 demigod guards can go with you and protect you throughout the whole process. They will let you gain something inside and then come out safely. Lin Jun looked at Lalati from head to toe. Did you forget to take your medicine this morning? When Lalati heard this, she immediately showed a trace of anger. Lin Jun, if you knew my identity, I'm afraid you wouldn't dare to say such a thing. Lin Jun didn't like people who used their identity to oppress others. He responded coldly, if you knew my personality, I'm afraid you wouldn't say such a thing either. At this time, Klinsmann suddenly ran to Lin Jun and whispered, Boss, I think this woman's identity is not simple. What's her identity? Klinsmann said, Boss, there is a group of people in the endless battlefield who are very powerful. They may not be the strongest, but almost no one dares to offend them. Do you feel it? This woman is definitely less than 10,000 years old. She's actually a 7th-grade alchemist from the divine realm. Without a strong backing, it's impossible to do this. In my opinion, she's a descendant of a god. A descendant of a god? Lin Zhen was stunned. That's right. A descendant of a god is the child of a powerful god. These people may not be as powerful as I am, but because of their special identity, no one dares to offend them. I think this woman might be a very powerful descendant of a god. Lin Zhen waved his hand. No matter who she is, since she came to us, we can't tolerate it. Chapter 886. Seeing that her persuasion had failed, Lala Ti's tone turned cold. Lin Zhen, I'll compete with you in alchemy. Okay, how do you want to compete? Even if an ordinary pill is refined, it's impossible to see the effect on the spot. I'm competing with you in alchemy, so I need 2 test subjects. Lala T waved her hand and someone brought 2 cages over. In each cage there was a monkey. Lin Zhen, these are just 2 ordinary monkeys. You and I will refine a pill each and feed it to the 2 monkeys. Then, they will fight in the cage. Whoever wins in the end will be the winner. What do you think? Lin Zhen's gaze swept across the 2 monkeys. How do we win? Kill? Defeat? Or submit? Lala T thought for a moment. Both are fine. Everyone here is a judge. This kind of thing can't be faked. Okay, I agree. Let's begin. Lin Zhen took out his own alchemy furnace from his interspatial ring. Lala T also took out her own alchemy furnace. Both of them were ready. Lala T suddenly said, Lin Zhen, you're a saint-level alchemist. If you lose to a weak girl like me, do you dare to call me master? Lin Zhen laughed. Do you dare? Lala T sneered. Why wouldn't I dare? If I lose, I'll take you as my master. I'm just afraid you don't have the guts. Lin Zhen clapped his hands and said, It's done. My alchemy skills have finally found a successor. Lala T snorted and didn't say anything else. However, the 2 of them had established an additional bet. Lin Yan encouraged the black-robed girl. Miss Lala T, it's up to you. Lala T nodded slightly. Don't worry, he has no hope of winning. Just as they were about to start, Lin Zhen suddenly said, I want to choose the monkey first. Lala T said, Okay. To be fair, you can choose first. Lin Zhen pointed to the one on the right. I choose this one. It's a male. At this moment, Lin Yan suddenly laughed. Haha, idiot. The females of these monkeys are even more powerful. Lin Zhen's lips curled up. That's not necessarily true. Asterisk 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 Lin Zhen and Rarati's pill refining officially began. The scene quieted down as everyone watched the 2 of them refine pills, as if they were floating clouds and flowing water. Now, no one dared to question Lin Zhen's alchemy skills anymore. This kind of bet was a bit unfair to Lin Zhen, because it was the other side who proposed the conditions. Lin Zhen accepted the challenge. One side came prepared, and the other side came unprepared. They could only rely on their own abilities. Although Rarati's alchemy was already extremely proficient and pleasing to the eye, compared to Lin Zhen, there was still a certain gap, which could be seen from the speed. Looks like Sage Master Lin is going to win again this time. It's obvious that he's more proficient in alchemy. This must be the strength of a Sage Master. After all, the black-clothed woman is already a 7th-grade alchemist. I think so too. Lin Zhen has already proven his identity as a Sage Master. In the future, I'll only buy pills from Golden Pill Workshop. I think it's a bit dangerous. This pill is for the monkey. The other party must have practiced many times. It's very likely that the Sage Master will lose. But I think this Rarati's background is not small. If she's really the child of a god, Lin Zhen might be in trouble in the future if he wins. It's hard to say, but a god wouldn't cause trouble for his child just because he lost a match. If he's so narrow-minded, how can he be a god? The people at the scene were paying attention. Countless people in the dimensional universe were also paying attention. This show was getting more and more interesting. Lin Jun kept adding herbs into the furnace, and at the same time, he accurately controlled the medicinal properties. This bet was very difficult. The other party must be very proficient in stimulating the power of the monkey. Even if his alchemy wasn't bad, the possibility of losing was still very high. So if he wanted to win, he had to find another way. 10 minutes later, the two people's herbs came out of the furnace at the same time. They each came to the side of the monkey they chose. Rarati reached out and touched the fur of her monkey. Facing Lin Jun, the black-clothed woman Rarati had a trace of ridicule. Lin Jun, when I let you choose first, I was really worried that you would choose my little flower. This little fellow has cooperated with me many times. Every time I used a monkey for a bet, she never lost. Lin Jun smiled. Your monkey is a female monkey. So what if it's a female monkey? Little Flower and I have a tacit understanding of each other. Rarati suddenly said, Lin Jun, I saw your performance in the virtual battlefield. To be honest, I'm not very convinced. If I can also become a gladiator, I'm afraid you won't be so successful in the virtual battlefield. In this bet, Little Flower will represent me. The male monkey you chose will represent you. It can be considered as fulfilling my dream of becoming a gladiator. This is also why I asked you to come. Lin Jun blinked. You're really boring. Okay, since you insist on defeating me, then let's see how your little flower performs. But she might disappoint you. You'll know when you try. Rarati laughed in disdain and stuffed the pill in her hand into the female monkey's mouth. After the female monkey ate the pill, her body suddenly swelled up. She clearly felt a lot stronger. Her hair stood up and she looked a lot fiercer. She bared her teeth at Lin Jun's male monkey as if she was going to pounce on him at any time. The black-robed woman was very confident. She had practiced giving the pill to the monkey countless times. She adjusted the monkey's condition to the best. It could be said that there were no weaknesses. Lin Jun didn't stay idle. He came over and fed the male monkey a pill. At the same time, he patted his body. Little guy, I'll rely on you to show off. Remember, you're representing me in the battle against the female monkey. Don't embarrass yourself. The male monkey squeaked and a subtle change happened to his body. Soon, the two cages were placed together and the partition in the middle was opened. Little Flower, go. You represent me. If you defeat the male monkey, you represent me defeating Lin Jun. Rarathai seemed to be very stubborn about defeating Lin Jun, as he shouted loudly. Lin Jun also waved at the male monkey. Do your best. You represent me. Rarati looked at Lin Jun. It seems that your alchemy skills are only so. I didn't see any strong performance from your male monkey. This time, you'll lose for sure. Don't be so sure. Let's wait and see. The female monkey rushed over. Her claws flashed cold light in the air. They were as sharp as knives. For a normal monkey, this was already a great killing weapon. Rarati believed that no matter how strong Lin Jun's monkey was, it couldn't be stronger than her little flower. This was proven through countless experiments. Lin Jun smiled and didn't say anything. He waited for the female monkey to attack. Just as the female monkey was about to pounce, the male monkey suddenly patted his chest and stood up. Previously, the male monkey was curled up so people couldn't see clearly. However, at this moment, the crowd suddenly burst into cheers. They saw that the male monkey's crotch had a hard rod erected high. This monkey was actually in heat. Rarati screamed in surprise and then covered her face. At this time, the female monkey also underwent a shocking change. The hair that was originally standing up also smoothened out. The female monkey began to walk in circles around the male monkey. From time to time, she would sniff the male monkey and occasionally rub the male monkey's fur. What was even more excessive was that the female monkey actually stroked the male monkey's crotch. A look of lust appeared on her monkey's face. The audience suddenly burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying of laughter. The female monkey has been seduced. Boss is mighty. How did you come up with such a domineering move? I, Klinsmann, am completely in admiration. Go, go. You represent boss. That female monkey represents the opposite girl. Take her down, ha ha. In the midst of everyone's laughter, Rarati couldn't care less about covering her face. She turned to Lin Jun and shouted, Lin Jun, what pill did you give your monkey? Lin Jun smiled. I admit that this is my first time giving a monkey medicine. To be safe, I only gave it a little aphrodisiac and something that can attract the opposite sex. If you want to blame someone, blame it on your female monkey. She's almost in heat and can't stand a little provocation. She couldn't control herself when she saw the male monkey. Lalati was furious. She turned to her little Blossom and said, Little Blossom, you represent me. This time it was even more amazing. She turned around and saw that the two monkeys had already started fighting in the arena. The female monkey had already been pressed down by the male monkey and started to move intensely. Lin Jun couldn't help but laugh this time. You represent me well. Rarati covered her face with both hands and squatted on the ground. She seemed to want to find a hole to hide in. Miss, I'm afraid it will take a while before the results are out. Why don't you have a cup of tea and rest for a while and wait for the result? Lin Jun added fuel to the fire. Rarati raised her head. Her black robe slid down from her head, revealing a beautiful face with golden hair and green eyes. Her snow-white skin was so red that it was almost dripping blood. What's the point of competing? I admit defeat, I admit defeat. Hurry up and make them stop. Then what about our bet? I'll give you the money immediately. Rarati couldn't take it anymore. She was already regretting saying that she represented someone. What else? Lin Jun wasn't willing to let it go. Rarati gritted her teeth and took a deep breath. Master. Ah. Good disciple. Lin Jun was in a good mood after accepting a 7th-grade alchemist as his disciple. Hurry up and make them stop. Rarati begged. Hurry up, take this cage away. Let them have their fun somewhere else. It's over. Finally, someone took the cage away. Rarati looked at Lin Jun. Master, to be my master, you need to have courage. In the future, there might be people looking for trouble with you. Chapter 887. No one expected that Lin Jun's bet would end up like this. He directly used the fact that Monkey was about to go into estrus to resolve the matter that Lalati had prepared in advance. He even took this 7th-grade alchemist as his subordinate. Even if Lin Yen could turn the tables in the last round, Lalati would still be Lin Jun's disciple. This could not be changed. Klinsmann and the others were already in admiration of Lin Jun's methods and applauded desperately. Lalati was also free and easy. After Monkey was pulled down, there was no awkward situation. She had already returned to normal. She put on her black robe and silently stood not far behind Lin Jun. However, no one knew what she was thinking. Lin Jun had already won 700 million. Now, only Lin Yen came to challenge him. This round was also the last round. The bet was 800 million. If Lin Jun won, he would have 1.5 billion. If he lost, he would lose everything. He would have to pay another 100 million. Lin Jun absolutely could not take out 100 million, so he could not afford to lose this round. Lin Yen came in front of Lin Jun and stared at Lin Jun for a while, without saying anything for a long time. Say something. Since you dare to come to my door, what do you want to compete with? Lin Jun asked. Lin Jun, through fire control, medicine collection, and alchemy, you have proven your strength. I now believe that you are already a saint-level alchemist. So what? Will you give up the competition because I am a saint-level alchemist? If you admit defeat, I have no objections. That way you may still save some face. Lin Yen shook his head. Lin Jun, don't be so whimsical. Although you are a saint-level alchemist, I can still expose your facade. After that, Lin Yen came to the center of the hall of Lin Zhen's medicine shop. Pointing to the center of the hall, in front of the huge signboard with the words, Resurrection, Lin Yen said loudly, I am here today to expose your facade. Lin Zhen, how dare you say that you can resurrect the dead? Lin Zhen frowned slightly. The 9 transformation golden pill that I refined can resurrect people within 7 days. As long as your body is not damaged or incomplete, there is no problem. Isn't this resurrection? Lin Yen sneered. I don't think so. Maybe you can't be resurrected even if your body is fine. Now I am very suspicious that your medicine is not that good. My medicinal pill is right here. It's not something you can question just because of empty words. You don't have to worry about this. Lin Yen turned to everyone around at this time. Brothers and sisters of Sky Square City, I, Lin Yen, have been selling medicine in Sky Square City for tens of thousands of years. I have never heard of a medicine that can resurrect the dead. Since Sage Lin Zhen dares to boast, you must be confident in his medicine. Then, I will test it on the spot today. The people around were taken aback. Test? How to test? Do you really find a dead person to resurrect? There was no way to guarantee the time of death, or who would commit suicide on the spot. But who would do this experiment? What if they really died and couldn't be resurrected? The crowd was in an uproar. There were all kinds of discussions, but they were obviously excited. Lin Yen quickly continued. In order to prove this matter, I specially found 2 death row prisoners from the prison of Sky Square City. They were supposed to be executed today. Now I will give them a chance. If they can be resurrected after eating Lin Zhen's medicine, they will be free. These 2 death row prisoners also agreed. Now let's try it. Soon, the 2 death row prisoners were brought up. They were both ordinary martial artists who had entered the immortal stage. No one knew what they had done. Lin Yen looked at Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen, it's not too late to back out now. Otherwise, when I test it on the spot, you won't be able to clean up the mess. Lin Zhen smiled. There's no need for that. Just try it. Okay. Since you're so stubborn, I'll start. After saying that, Lin Yen seemed to be about to start with the 2 death row prisoners. At this time, Lin Zhen's new apprentice, Lalati, said, Don't you care that someone died in your pharmacy? Lin Zhen waved his hand. It's not a dead person, it's resurrection. Lalati was taken aback for a moment. Then, he shut up. The people around who felt that something was wrong were also taken aback. Then, a look of realization appeared on their faces. If they really came back from the dead, Lin Zhen's business would be very popular. Countless filming began. Everyone wanted to see the process. These live broadcasts were also very popular in the dimensional universe. The title of Resurrection from the Dead was already very attractive. Lin Zhen's popularity once again exploded. Lin Yen walked to the first death row prisoner. He didn't believe that Lin Zhen could resurrect the dead. Maybe some saint-level alchemists could do it, but Lin Zhen was so young. He really couldn't believe it. He came to the first death row prisoner. With a flip of his hand, a short knife appeared in his palm. Without hesitation, he stabbed the first death row prisoner in the heart. Blood flowed out. The death row prisoner clutched his chest and fell to the ground. An immortal martial artist wouldn't die so easily. He stabbed a few more times and completely killed this person. During this process, Lin Zhen's expression didn't change. After Lin Yen was done, Lin Zhen said, Is there anyone else who needs to be checked to see if this person is really dead? Everyone waved their hands. There was no need to check. He was already dead. At this moment Lin Yen said, Now, Sage Lin Zhen, please save him. Lin Zhen nodded. I can save him, but who will pay for the pills? Lin Yen was taken aback for a moment. Then, a trace of anger appeared on his face. What a stingy miser. He just earned a few $100 million, but he still wants to calculate this little bit of pill money. That's different. Now, you're the one who wants to test, not me. Moreover, refining pills also has a cost. If Bosley isn't willing to pay, then carry him away. Someone will be able to test my pills sooner or later. Lin Yen came today to take down Lin Jun. Of course, he couldn't just leave like this. He gritted his teeth and took out 10 million to buy a pill. At this time, no one knew the effects of the pill, and no one competed with Lin Yen. Soon, the pill was in his hand. Lin Yen stuffed this pill into the mouth of the dead man. The pill melted in his mouth. There was no need to swallow it. It quickly entered his stomach. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, this person's wound soon stopped bleeding, and there was a strange fragrance. After a while, the death row prisoner's wound had scabbed, and in the eyes of everyone, his finger twitched slightly. He's alive. He's really alive. This is simply a miracle. I've heard of reviving the dead before, but I thought it was just a legend. It has never happened in Sky Square City. A sage-level alchemist is indeed not for show. Sage Lin Jun, please accept me as your disciple. I don't want to be paid. I can even pay for it. I can also do odd jobs for you. Count me in. I can have the same surname as you. As long as Master can teach me a little bit of skills, it's fine. Several alchemists actually knelt down and wanted to be apprenticed. The death row prisoner opened his eyes and even sat up slowly. Although there was still a blank look on his face, he soon fell into ecstasy. I'm alive. I'm really alive, ha ha ha. Sage Lin Jun, you're really my second parent. I'll serve you forever in the future, okay? Some excited people applauded one after another. There were even smart people who had already snatched the remaining 2 pills to bid. However, they couldn't compete with Lin Yen. After all, Lin Yen was still very reputable. In addition, they had a large number of people. They squeezed the surrounding people away and occupied the front of the counter. They shouted to the people, "What do you people know? There's a way to treat a knife in the heart. Don't make a fuss if you don't know alchemy. The test isn't over yet. Maybe his pill won't have the same effect for other injuries." The restless crowd finally calmed down. Since they couldn't compete with Lin Yen, they wanted to see the final effect. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Jun took back the 3rd pill. You can't compete like this. If you still want to buy it next time, you have to bid normally. Lin Yen's face was gloomy as he came to the 2nd death row prisoner. Mental attack. Lin Yen launched a mental attack on this death row prisoner at the early stage of immortal life. At the same time, he cut off his neck with a palm. The death row prisoner died on the spot. His body fell to the ground softly. His neck was obviously fractured. Only his skin was connected. Lin Jun frowned slightly. The main cause of death of this death row prisoner was the shattering of his soul. His sea of consciousness was scattered by Lin Yen's attack. It wasn't that his neck was broken on the surface. That was just Lin Yen's trick. If it was the 9 transformation golden pill refined by Lin Jun in the past, he really couldn't save this death row prisoner. But now, the 9 transformation golden pill had been improved by Lin Jun. It had super strong soul power and was proficient in refining mental strength pills. Lin Jun's 9 transformation golden pill had the effect of gathering souls. Especially for people who had just died, it had a miraculous effect. Lin Yen confidently fed the death row prisoner the pill, and then waited to see Lin Jun make a fool of himself. But what he didn't expect was that there was a little golden starlight flickering on the head of this death row prisoner. F***CK. This is too awesome. This is gathering souls. This pill is heaven-defying. I only read about gathering souls in ancient books. I didn't expect it to really exist. This is amazing. Master, even if you hit my face with a toilet bowl, I won't leave. From now on, I will live in the Golden Pill Workshop and be a medicine boy. Senior sister, please accept a bow from junior brother. Lalati, who had just become Lin Jun's disciple, was now a senior sister. Someone actually tried to get close to her, causing her to hide with a look of disgust. Lin Jin smiled as he watched the second death row prisoner resurrect, and then turned to Lin Yen. Boss Li, have you given up this time? It's time to cash in your 800 million, right? Lin Yen's face was extremely ugly. Seeing that the people present were almost treating Lin Jin as a god, how could he be reconciled? When he came, he had a winning thought in his heart. Now, he gritted his teeth. No. It's not over yet. Lin Jin, you still have a third pill. Sell it to me, I want to test it again. Lin Jin shook his head. No, I've already used 2 death row prisoners. There are no more death row prisoners. It's illegal to continue. You can't kill people here. Chapter 888. Hearing Lin Yen's words, Lin Jin was stunned for a moment. What did Boss Li say? Lin Yen gritted her teeth and said, I've said it very clearly. I want to test it myself. I now suspect that you've gotten the news. These 2 prisoners have already been bribed by you. You've done something to them. Lin Jin laughed when he heard this. Are you crazy? You brought the prisoners here. How could I do anything to them? It's hard to say. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. What if you knew in advance and drugged the prisoners in advance to ensure that their true spirit wouldn't dissipate and their souls wouldn't be lost? The combination of the drug inside and outside can achieve a miraculous effect. There's such a drug in the ancient pill formula. It can be faked as bringing the dead back to life. Although Lin Yen's words weren't very credible, it still caused some waves in the crowd. Of course, it was mainly the people brought by Lin Yen who stirred up the atmosphere and deliberately smeared Lin Jin's reputation. However, there were still some pedantic people who had doubt. Although there were some waves, it didn't affect the overall situation. Lin Jin waved his hand. You don't have to say any more. I won't agree. It's already been verified. How can I let your one-sided words change things? Chapter 889. Klinsmann agreed and informed the city lord's mansion. Actually, there was no need to inform them. The drama at Golden Pill Workshop had already attracted the city lord's mansion's attention. Immediately, officers from the city lord's mansion arrived and arrested the people who smashed Lin Jin's shop. The officer in charge received a notice from the dimensional universe at this time. The notice was sent by the city lord, Old Man Kan Jing. He demanded that the culprits who smashed Lin Jin's shop be severely punished. When the officer announced Old Man Kan Jing's words, the people who smashed Lin Jin's shop were all ashen-faced. Lin Jin demanded 10 times the compensation. Even if they went bankrupt, they couldn't afford it. This shop had just opened. Although there were many pills on display, it couldn't be worth more than 2 billion. Perhaps a total of 120 million would be the limit. Lin Jin was really asking for an exorbitant price. He was asking for 10 times the price and then another 10 times. He was trying to kill them. What they couldn't figure out was how Lin Yen managed to pull off such a ridiculous trick. Looking at the puzzled eyes of the people around him, Lin Jin sneered. Lin Yen, if I'm not wrong, you're from the Cannon clan, right? Lin Yen's expression turned ugly. How did you know? It's simple. If you knew my experience in the primordial realm, you wouldn't have set a trap for me. Because when I was on the Star of God's Punishment, I had dealt with the Cannon clan's martial artists. Lin Jin faced the crowd. The Cannon clan's martial artists are twins. One is a martial arts prodigy and the other is a genius in other aspects. Lin Yen is like that. He must have another body that's a powerful martial artist, and this clone is a genius in alchemy. Otherwise, it's not so easy to become a 7th-grade alchemist. The Cannon clan has a special characteristic. The martial artist is the master. As long as the master is alive, the other person can be resurrected. Lin Yen dared to commit suicide because of this. The life and death of his body are controlled by the other person. Of course, if his body is cut into pieces, it's useless even if the main body is alive. Lin Jin chuckled and looked at Lin Yen. I was right, wasn't I? Seeing that I was about to cut off your head, your main body couldn't hold back, and had no choice but to revive you. Is that right? Lin Yan gritted her teeth and looked at Lin Jun. After a while, she said, Lin Jun, you don't know who my main body is. That's why you dare to be so arrogant in front of me. Let me tell you, my main body is a demigod. You'd better restrain yourself. Lin Jun suddenly gave him a backhand slap. Cut the crap. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're a demigod? You brought so many people to set up a trap and destroyed my shop. You'd better think about how to compensate me. At this moment, Lin Yan was in the wrong. In addition, the officials were ordered by Old Man Kanjing to wait again. He was completely unable to say anything. Actually, he still had a secret that he didn't say. The 9 transformations golden pill just now had been replaced by Lin Jun. He was only given a sugar pill. It turned out that Lin Jun had already seen through his identity and understood his plan. This guy was really bold. He actually dared to tamper with the pills. He was really too evil. But now that things had come to this, it was useless no matter what he said. No one would believe him even if he said it. After being slapped, Lin Yan was about to go crazy. However, this wasn't his demigod main body after all. He could only grit his teeth and say, Lin Jun, don't go overboard. We can't afford more than 10 billion. It's okay. You can't afford it. There's still your pill shop. Give it to me for free. Take it as paying off your debt. After saying that, Lin Jun faced the officials. These people smashed my shop. I want their shops to compensate. This request isn't too much, right? The officer had already received the order, so of course he would speak up for Lin Jun. No problem, it's reasonable. All of you listen up. If you can't come up with the money to compensate Lin Jun, then transfer your assets immediately. Lin Jun's asking price was too high. They couldn't afford it. In desperation, the people who participated in smashing Lin Jun's shop could only transfer their businesses. Lin Jun obtained 5 pill shops in an instant. The value of these pill shops, including the goods, was more than 2 billion. He also obtained 5 billion in cash. This time, he made a huge profit. After these procedures were completed, Lin Jun's pill shop was also tidied up. The pills were collected. Not many were damaged. In fact, only some counters and appliances were damaged. They weren't worth much at all. The boss's eyes were red. Things that were worth tens of thousands of yuan were robbed of all their businesses. This time, they were really blind to come here to make trouble. Now that they couldn't afford to offend Lin Jun, these bosses began to blame Lin Yan. Lin Yan also saw that the situation wasn't good. He said to Lin Jun fiercely, Lin Jun, you won this time, but our business isn't over. Your retribution is coming. I promise it will come soon. Lin Jun snorted from his nostrils. There's no place for you in Sky City. Get lost. I won't see you out. Lin Yan left the crowd in a sorry state. His businesses and money were gone. He really couldn't stay in Sky City anymore. However, he had the skills of alchemy. He could survive in other places. Besides, his real body was on the way. Lin Jun. Let's wait and see. The eye of the storm will be your grave. Asterisk 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 Lin Jun's golden pill shop opened again. This time, it wasn't 1 shop, but 6. These shops were even bigger than Lin Jun's. The foundation was very good. Now that they had changed owners and reopened, the popularity was simply indescribable. This incident had once again pushed Lin Jun's reputation to a new peak. There was no one in Heavenly Square City who didn't know of his name. Moreover, his name had spread to the surroundings at the speed of light. Countless martial artists came to Sky City one after another, wanting to buy the 9 transformation golden pill. However, Lin Jun was only one person. The 9 transformation golden pill wasn't a cabbage that he could refine as many as he wanted. He could only refine 3 pills in one furnace. Usually, he could only refine 1 pill a day. Now that the medicinal pill market was so popular, Lin Jun couldn't let go of the opportunity to make money. Although he got more than $1 billion in cash this time, it cost him some money to reopen the shop. If he wanted to make money quickly, he had to work hard on the 9 transformation golden pill. The avatar stopped comprehending the stone tablet and began to refine pills in the back hall. He refined 2 furnaces of 9 transformation golden pill every day. The rest of the time, the avatar was refining flower nourishing pills. He began to refine a large number of pills for the middle stage of 3 flower realm. He was also purchasing pills for the later stage. There were 6 pills in 2 furnaces. The 6 shops were only limited to 1 pill a day. The starting price was 10 million, but the transaction price was more than that. Basically, they were all above 15 million. The highest price was even 28 million. Just the 9 transformations golden pills alone could bring Lin Jun 100 million in wealth every day. Coupled with the sales of other medicinal pills, Lin Jun had no pressure to make 200 million a day. The other medicinal pills were no longer refined by Lin Jun alone. After he became famous this time, countless alchemists came to Lin Jun, wanting to be his disciple. Of course, Lin Jun didn't have the time to teach them so much, but these people refused to leave. They would rather help Lin Jun in his medicine shop. Studying the composition of Lin Jun's medicinal pills was what they were most willing to do. With these alchemists, Lin Jun didn't let them be idle. They were usually responsible for refining pills for the medicine shop. Lin Jun paid them a salary. These things were all left to Lalati and Klinsmann to manage. Lalati was Lin Jun's only disciple. For this female disciple, Lin Jun was still willing to teach her something. Lalati was a woman who was obsessed with alchemy. Every day, she focused on learning alchemy from Lin Jun. Her realm advanced by leaps and bounds, and there were even signs of entering the saint realm. Lin Jun even found that Lalati seemed to be a doppelganger. As for her real body, Lin Jun didn't know and didn't need to know. A month's time passed just like that. In this month, the 6 shops had stabilized. The daily income was rich, forming a huge wealth industry chain. The money in Lin Jun's card was also soaring rapidly. It had reached 7 billion. Today was the day of the auction in Sky City. Lalati, you stay at home and guard the shop. I have something to do today. Got it, Lalati replied. Lin Jun packed up, took all the cash, and went out. Today was a very important day. The ethereal divine clock was of great significance to Lin Jun. He was determined to get it. After going out, Lin Jun summoned the 9-headed lion and went straight to Sky City's auction house. Of course, he could also participate in the auction in the dimensional universe. However, Lin Jun felt that it wasn't appropriate. If he wasn't there, he wouldn't be able to deal with any emergency situation. It was better to come here personally. After arriving at Sky City's auction house and keeping the 9 spirits, someone immediately came out to welcome him. Saint Teacher Lin Jun, your presence brings light to our humble auction house. This person was an auctioneer with spiritual force transformation. Lin Jun didn't know him, but it didn't matter. Almost everyone in Sky City knew Lin Jun. Lin Jun nodded and followed the auctioneer in. On the way, the auctioneer kept asking Lin Jun, Saint Teacher, may I know what goods you have your eyes on this time? Lin Jun smiled and said, I'm just looking around. Hee, Saint Teacher is still keeping it a secret. That's good too. However, if Saint Teacher has any good goods, you can also bring them to the auction house to participate in the auction. I guarantee that the price will be much higher than what you sell in the elixir store. The auction house had contacted Lin Jun several times, wanting to contract the auction of the 9 transformation golden pill. However, Lin Jun didn't agree to it. It wasn't a good thing for the price to be too high. A single elixir was worth over 10 million. If the price was higher, it would easily cause trouble. After the divine clock was auctioned, Lin Jun even planned to only sell 1 elixir a day. This was because he was about to go to the Eye of the Storm and didn't have time to concoct elixirs here. The auctioneer was still introducing, Saint Teacher, we have a lot of good things here today. There's the ethereal divine clock, the core of a star, and divine crystals for sale. Lin Zhen was stunned for a moment. Oh, there are divine crystals for sale? How much is one divine crystal? The auctioneer stretched out 2 palms, 1 billion. Chapter 890. Upon hearing this, Lin Zhen's heart skipped a beat. It turned out that divine crystals were so expensive. Although it seemed easy for Lin Zhen to make 7 billion, it was only because he was famous and had monopolized almost half of the sales of medicinal pills in Heavenly Square City that he could make such a result. If it was someone else, it would be very difficult to earn 700,000, let alone 7 billion. Moreover, 5 billion was just the starting price. The final transaction price of one divine crystal was more or less 10 billion. After asking, Lin Zhen stood up and walked into the auction house. The auction was about to begin. Lin Zhen entered the scene. Although Lin Zhen was now a popular figure in Sky Square City, he wasn't qualified to sit in the front row of the auction house. His ticket allowed him to sit in the second row. However, Lin Zhen didn't go there. Instead, he found a corner and sat down without attracting any attention. The decorations here were very luxurious. Lying on a huge reclining chair, one could see the auction stage from the slanted angle. There were drinks, fruits, and a number plate at hand. Raising the number plate once represented increasing the bid. Guests began to enter one after another. This was a grand event for experts. One after another, valiant and powerful experts walked into the venue. Among them, there weren't any longevity realm or 3-flower realm experts. The weakest was in the spiritual force transformation realm. There weren't many spiritual force realm experts. Most of them were in the divine realm. Among them, there were even divine stone realm experts. Divine realm experts weren't qualified to sit in the front row. All of them were in the divine stone realm. Next, let us warmly welcome an expert from our Sky Square City. The famous demigod expert in the endless battlefield, chasing Soul King, is here. Cheerful music sounded. Surrounded by a few spiritual force realm maids, a middle-aged man with a dignified look appeared. Lin Zhen couldn't help but raise his head. This was his first time seeing an Emperor Realm expert. Emperor Realm experts were super experts in the endless battlefield that made people tremble with fear upon hearing their name. Gods didn't participate in the battles in the endless battlefield. Therefore, the strongest experts in the endless battlefield were the Hall of the Exalted. However, there were only 200 experts in the Hall of the Exalted from the surface races and the Hall of the Exalted from the endless races. The chances of encountering an Emperor Realm expert in the endless battlefield with a diameter of over 100 million light-years was too small. One might not even encounter one in one's entire life. Hence, in the eyes of the people, emperors were the strongest in the endless battlefield. According to some statistics and rumors, in the entire primordial realm, the number of conferred king experts did not exceed 6 digits. In the primordial realm, where the population was simply incalculable, this was an extremely small number, so small that it was almost negligible. Therefore, when the soul-chasing king appeared, many people stood up and applauded. Some even took off their hats to salute him. Your Excellency Soul-Chasing King, it's a pleasure to meet you. You look great today. It's an honor to meet you. I'm your admirer. The soul-chasing king didn't even spare a glance at those spirit will and God world experts. He didn't even bat an eyelid when someone greeted him. Chasing Soul King walked all the way to the front row and sat down in a VIP seat. Looking around, the soul-chasing king slightly nodded to the God Stone experts as a greeting. Those God Stone experts were delighted. Obviously, it was an honor to receive a nod from the soul-chasing king. After the soul-chasing king sat down, the auction didn't start immediately. After another 5 minutes, another guest walked in. Next, let us welcome our honorable guest from Fu Tian City. The pride of Fu Tian City, demigod expert, heartless king. The temperature seemed to have dropped by a few degrees. A white-haired martial artist wearing a long white cloak walked in. Unlike the soul-chasing king, who had a grand entrance, the heartless king was alone. Lin Zhen was stunned. He didn't expect to see two emperor-ranked experts at the auction today. He immediately looked over. The heartless king was like a moving iceberg. Not only was his clothes white, but his hair was white as well. Even his eyebrows were white. He carried a white longsword on his back. It looked like it was made of ice and snow, emitting a strong chill. When this person opened and closed his eyes were faintly glowing red. He had a handsome face, but anyone who looked at him would feel a chill down their spine. Wow! The Heartless King. He's the #1 expert in Fu Tian City. He's 4 million light-years away from here. I've also heard that this person entered the Tao through slaughter. Back then, when he mastered his cultivation technique, he didn't even recognize his own family and killed everyone by his side, including his beloved for 10,000 years. Because of this, he obtained the title of Heartless King. Yes, it's said that this person's strength is even slightly stronger than the soul-chasing king from Sky City. Some people even say that he has hopes of entering the Hall of the Exalted. Is it that exaggerated? The Hall of the Exalted is known as the strongest below the gods. He's actually that strong. It's usually hard to see an emperor-ranked expert. I didn't expect to see 2 emperor-ranked demigods today. I wonder why these 2 experts are here at the same time? Is there a need to ask? Their target is either the ethereal divine bell or the divine crystal. I guess the divine crystal is more likely. As a demigod, the divine crystal is the only hope to become a god. The Heartless King walked to the front row and sat in another VIP seat, facing the soul-chasing king from afar. The two of them looked at each other, and there seemed to be sparks in their eyes. After the Heartless King appeared, the auctioneer went up the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first introduce myself. My name is Jerry, the auctioneer of Sky City Auction House. Thank you very much for your presence. It's fate that we're all gathered in the city on the other side of the sky and met at the edge of the endless battlefield. Let me propose a toast to all of you. Jerry raised a glass of red wine and raised it. Most of the people raised their glasses and took a sip of their wine. Alright, let's start the first auction item today. This is the purple crystal from Tuoba planet. It can be used for... The auctioneers started calling out their bids one after another. Lin Zhen kept his head down. Although some of the items had piqued his interest, he knew very well what he was here for. He wouldn't waste his money on other things. Obtaining the God Clock was the only thing he wanted. During the auction, the soul-chasing king occasionally made a move. Every time the soul-chasing king made a move, the bidding stopped. Basically, no one dared to compete with him. Since the Heartless King entered, he didn't say a word. He even kept his eyes closed. No matter what item was being auctioned, he couldn't feel anything. That was until the divine crystal appeared. Ladies and gentlemen, the highlight of today's auction is a divine crystal. I'm sure everyone knows about the divine crystal. Only after the death of a god, the divine crystal formed by the divine stone heart in his body will flow out. How many thousands of years does it take for a god to appear? I'm afraid there aren't many divine crystals in the entire primordial realm. Every divine crystal is the key to a martial artist's qualitative change. It's the ultimate dream of all martial artists. Now, there's a divine crystal being auctioned here. The starting price is 1 billion, and each increment is at least 100 million. Do you want to become a god? Then you must prepare a divine crystal. This is your future. The bidding starts now. I welcome everyone to make a bid. After Jerry's incitement, the highlight of today's auction was finally here. The soul-chasing king was the first to raise the sign in his hand. 1 billion. After raising the sign, his eyes scanned the audience. He revealed a threatening look to some people, indicating that he was determined to get the divine crystal. However, other martial artists could give up other things, but a treasure like the divine crystal was related to everyone's future. There was no giving up. When a divine stone realm expert reached the peak, he could also become a god with a divine crystal. Once he became a god, who would care if he was a demigod? 1 billion. Immediately, a divine stone realm expert followed with a bid. 2 billion. 3 billion. 5 billion. The bids rose one after another. Soon, it rose to 2 billion. They didn't give the soul-chasing king any face. The soul-chasing king's expression didn't look good. However, he couldn't lose his temper in the face of so many divine stone realm experts. He snorted and raised his sign again. 5 billion. This one-time increment of 500 million finally had some effect. Several divine stone realm experts who were competing for the divine crystal backed off. However, this price wasn't enough to scare everyone off. There was still a scholar and a savage divine stone realm expert who didn't give up. 6 billion. 8 billion. The soul-chasing king raised his sign again. 3 billion. 2 billion. 3 billion. The soul-chasing king raised his sign again. 5 billion. Hearing this price, the savage finally couldn't take it anymore. He took the initiative to sit down, which meant that he had given up. However, the scholar was still there. He continued to bid without fear. 8 billion. The soul-chasing king glared at the scholar. Mu Ling, you haven't reached the peak of the divine stone realm yet. You still have a chance to get divine crystals in the eye of the storm. You better not go overboard. Otherwise, it won't do you any good. 4 billion. Hearing the soul-chasing king's threat, the scholar called Mu Ling finally backed off. After hesitating for a long time, the price was still out of his range. Mu Ling sat down dejectedly and gave up on competing for the divine crystals. The soul-chasing king's face was filled with pride. He was ready to reap the fruits of victory. On the stage, Jerry began to shout, "Your Excellency, the soul-chasing king bids 4 billion. Is there anyone who exceeds this price? 4 billion going once, 4 billion going twice, 4 billion going. 5 billion. Below the stage, the heartless king, who had been silent all this time, finally raised his sign for the first time. "Heartless, are you really going to compete with me?" The soul-chasing king's face was filled with anger. Heartless said indifferently, "Nonsense. Why would I come all the way to Sky Square City if I don't want to sell good stuff? I will get whatever I want." "Humph. Who doesn't know how to boast? Do you think I will give up just like this? 5 billion. 6 billion. 5 billion. 7 billion. Chapter 891. Chasing Soul King's goal was very clear. He came to this auction house to compete for the divine crystals. He knew his limits. With his talent, reaching the Emperor level was already his limit. He couldn't enter the Hall of the Exalted, and he couldn't rely on his own ability to break through and become a god. So he only had one path, and that was to buy divine crystals and refine them to become a god. But divine crystals were hard to come by, and the auction house didn't have them often. He had been preparing for countless years, accumulating money, waiting for the time to buy them. According to his past experience, he could get these divine crystals for about 5 billion. So this time, he had accumulated more than 6 billion. He came to Tianfang auction house full of confidence, but he didn't expect to be intercepted by Heartless King. If you didn't have money in your card, you couldn't even raise your card, because it had to be redeemed on the spot. If you couldn't take out the money, you had to compensate. Heartless King was slightly stronger than him, and he had more money. Chasing Soul King was so angry that his face turned red. If this wasn't an auction house, he would even dare to fall out with Heartless King on the spot. Stealing someone's divine crystal was a huge enmity. Heartless King didn't care about Chasing Soul King's appearance. He said coldly, "Are you still going to bid? Who are you showing that face to?" Chasing Soul King finally sat down dejectedly. A single coin could stump a hero, but it could also stump a powerful martial artist. Jerry continued to agitate the crowd, but the purchase of the divine crystals had come to an end. No one was bidding anymore. Not everyone had Lin Zhen's ability. Lin Zhen's alchemy skills were outstanding even among the saint-level alchemists. He was a peak saint-level alchemist. Even Lin Zhen had mastered the 9 transformations golden pill and coincidentally opened 6 elixir stores. Only then did he have 7 billion today. If it were an ordinary saint-level alchemist, it would be amazing to earn a few million or even 10 million a day. Heartless King won the divine crystal without a hitch. Lin Zhen watched silently as the 2 king-ranked martial artists bid. He was envious of their strength. He didn't know how long it would take for him to reach the level of conferred king. Perhaps he would have enough time to comprehend the time laws in the ethereal divine bell. Perhaps that day wouldn't be too far away. The auction continued, but the ordinary items did not pique Lin Zhen's interest. The 2 titled demigods did not participate in the bidding, but they did not leave. All kinds of small items were gradually auctioned off, and it was finally time for the grand finale of the day. Ethereal Divine Bell. 2 staff members carefully lifted a bronze bell onto the auction stage. Friends, allow me to introduce the last item for today's auction, the Divine Ethereal Bell. I don't know how many of you have studied the law of time, but those who have must know that the law of time is one of the most difficult laws to learn. Time acceleration, time deceleration, time stop, and in the legends, time reversal. If time can really be reversed, then even space and time can be reversed. What a miraculous ability! Today's ethereal divine bell no longer belongs to the ranks of numinous treasures. It belongs to the category of utmost treasures. What was a treasure? That was a supreme treasure. It was the strongest treasure at the pinnacle of the primordial realm. Legend has it that this divine ethereal bell was a treasure belonging to a top-notch deity. The divine bell contains this deity's lifelong cultivation effort. It contains the profound meaning of the law of time. If a cultivator can comprehend the profound meaning of the law of time, then you can even stop time and make a moment you like last forever. Divine gems and utmost treasures are both of great value. For those who don't have divine gems might be more precious. However, for those who have divine gems, utmost treasures are the most precious. This is because this is an item used by a deity and it has fallen into our heavenly square city. This is everyone's opportunity and great fortune. The auction starts now. Just like the divine gems, the starting price of this utmost treasure is 1 billion. Each bid will be increased by at least 100 million. Let's get started. Jerry shouted at the top of his lungs. The atmosphere of the scene was stirred up once again. Even without Jerry's explanation, everyone at the scene knew the value of this utmost treasure. However, for most of them, this divine ethereal bell was of no use to them. This was because they didn't have the ability to comprehend the law of time. It was just too difficult. However, there would always be people who needed it. Among the hundreds of people at the scene, more than a dozen people participated in the bidding. The price rose rapidly and exceeded 3 billion in just a short while. After it exceeded 3 billion, people began to withdraw from the bidding. Although utmost treasures were great, they couldn't be obtained without money. The scholar and the savage were also in the bidding. When the price reached 5 billion, only the 2 of them were left. At this moment, the soul-chasing king made his move again. 5 billion. Although he didn't get the divine gems, he didn't want to miss this utmost treasure again. Perhaps he could exchange this utmost treasure for divine gems in the future. If he brought this utmost treasure to the depths of the endless battlefield, the soul-chasing king dared to guarantee that the price of this utmost treasure would definitely be above the divine gems. He believed that he would meet someone who knew the value of this utmost treasure sooner or later. However, as soon as he finished shouting, the heartless king spoke again. 6 billion. The soul-chasing king's eyes widened. Heartless, you've gone overboard. You snatched my divine gems and now you want to snatch my utmost treasure. Are you here today to go against me? Soul-chasing king, don't think too highly of yourself. I'm not in the mood to go against you. You're not even worthy. I'm here today to buy what I want. If we're talking about going against me, whoever bids against me is going against me. The scholar and the savage sat down again. The two king-ranked demigods went against each other again. They didn't have the wealth or the ability to compete with each other. The soul-chasing king gritted his teeth and said, 5 billion. 6 billion. This time, the heartless king only increased the bid by 100 million. He already knew how much money the soul-chasing king had. With this bid, the soul-chasing king couldn't increase the bid anymore. As expected, the soul-chasing king met his Waterloo again. Faced with a price of 6 billion, he was powerless. On the auction stage, Jerry shook his head slightly. It seemed like Heartless had won again. Just as he was about to drop the hammer, another voice rang out. 7 billion. Who is it? The person sitting next to Wu Qing shuddered, and the surrounding temperature instantly dropped below freezing point. His gaze was as sharp as a knife as he looked in the direction of the voice and saw Lin Jun sitting there. There was an uproar in the auction house. So it's Sage Lin Jun. When did Sage Teacher come? Why is he sitting in the corner? Sage Teacher, I'm going to explore the depths of the endless battlefield in a few days. I urgently need a 9 transformations golden pill. I wonder if I can pre-order a 9 transformations golden pill from Sage Teacher? You have to know that the 9 transformations golden pill's price is rising steadily. The supply can't meet the demand. I can't get it at all. Me too. I need to pre-order 2 pills. Can I get a discount if I buy more? Lin Jun smiled at the crowd. Everyone, it's the auction time now. Can we not steal the limelight? These experts also knew this rule, but they were a little anxious. They all stopped talking, but in their hearts they were thinking about how to build a good relationship with Lin Jun so that they could purchase pills. Heartless looked at Lin Jun for a while. His iceberg-like face didn't change at all. He slowly said, So it's the newly risen saint-level alchemist Lin Jun. You're quite famous. I've heard of your name even in Futian City. However, you're still a little lacking if you want to compete with me for the treasure. 8 billion. Heartless' tone was just like his person. Even his words had the feeling of ice shard. It made people feel as if their bones were cold. It had to be said that Heartless was very rich. As the number 1 person in Futian City, Heartless' assets were very strong. He had just spent 7 billion to buy divine crystals, but he could still take out 8 billion to buy the God Clock. This kind of wealth was amazing. Lin Jun didn't have 8 billion now. He couldn't afford to raise the price. However, Lin Jun had his own ideas. Lin Jun looked at the soul-chasing king. Soul-chasing king, can you lend me some money so that I can win this auction? The soul-chasing king frowned slightly. Why? Although you're a sage master, you're not at the same level as us. You can't take out what I need. Why should I help you? Alright, since the soul-chasing king says so, I wonder if the soul-chasing king needs this item? With that, Lin Jun raised his hand. A sparkling divine crystal appeared in his palm. You have a divine crystal too. How much is it? I'll buy it. The soul-chasing king was overjoyed. No one saw his movements clearly. He had already arrived beside Lin Jun. Lin Jun smiled. 6 billion. Deal. The soul-chasing king didn't hesitate and transferred 6 billion to Lin Jun on the spot. After obtaining the divine crystal, he excitedly added Lin Jun as a friend in the dimensional universe. Lin Jun, let's cut to the chase. In the future, you'll be my brother in Heavenly Square City. Other than the City Lord, if anyone wants to find trouble with you, you can use my name, the Soul-Chasing King. Thank you, brother. However, I don't think there's a need for that in Heavenly Square City. We'll meet again someday. The soul-chasing king nodded. That's right. However, now that I've obtained the divine crystal, I'm going to find a place to cultivate in seclusion. Goodbye, brother. With that, the soul-chasing king hurriedly walked out of the auction house. Clearly, he couldn't wait any longer. After Lin Zhen obtained 6 billion from the soul-chasing king, the amount in his card had reached 13 billion. He faced the Heartless King again and said indifferently, "Heartless King, a straightforward person doesn't resort to insinuations. I only have a total of 13 billion. If you exceed this price today, I'll admit defeat. 10 billion. A one-time increase of 2 billion. Moreover, Lin Zhen also included a psychological tactic. If the Heartless King wanted to compete for this supreme treasure, he would have to spend at least 13 billion. No one's money came from the wind. Even the Heartless King had to think twice before acting. Lin Zhen didn't know if the Heartless King had the financial resources to compete with him to the end. However, the Heartless King stopped bidding. Lin Zhen, you've won. However, I would like to ask if you want to participate in the Eye of the Storm in the future? Lin Zhen was taken aback. That's right. Very good. Then keep the ethereal divine bell well. Don't lose it. With that, the Heartless King stood up and left the auction house. Lin Zhen's lips curled into a sneer as he walked to the front of the auction stage. Chapter 892. After obtaining the divine ethereal bell, Lin Zhen let out a long sigh of relief. The divine ethereal bell was of great significance to him. It was essential to his future and hope. Although 10 billion was a lot, even costing him a divine crystal, Lin Zhen felt it was worth it. Although divine crystals were rare and abundant, there was only one divine ethereal bell. In Lin Zhen's mind, the value of the two was not equal at all. After obtaining the divine ethereal bell, Lin Zhen left the auction house and returned to the Golden Pill Plaza. His clone was still performing alchemy. From now on, Lin Zhen's clone had several main tasks. One was to stockpile a large number of 9 revolutions golden pills. Lin Zhen had decided that after he entered the Eye of the Storm, only the Golden Pill Plaza would sell 9 revolutions golden pill a day. The other pharmacies would no longer sell them. In addition to stockpiling 9 revolutions golden pills, Lin Zhen began to stockpile a large number of herbs. He was refining flower nourishing pills for the middle stage of the 3-flower realm, storing herbs for the later stages, and also storing herbs for the divine sense realm. Thanks to Lin Zhen's proficiency in alchemy for the 3-flower and divine sense realms, Lin Zhen did not have to spend a lot of time cultivating. He wanted to collect as many herbs as he could so he could cultivate to the divine realm. As for the pills he needed to refine after the divine realm, Lin Zhen had no way to refine them yet. The key was that he did not have the pill recipe, so he could only slowly search for it in the future. Although Lin Zhen had the pill recipe, this kind of medicine was very expensive. Lin Zhen's 6 pharmacies put up their signboards at the same time and purchased them in large quantities. Countless amounts of money flowed out every day, but the 6 pharmacies managed to maintain a balance of income and expenditure during this period. The work outside was carried out in an orderly manner, and the days passed by one after another. Lin Zhen's main body never appeared again. All his energy and time were spent on comprehending the divine ethereal bell. The process of comprehending the divine ethereal bell was unexpectedly difficult. Lin Zhen sat in the back hall of the Golden Pill Plaza, a huge copper bell that could cover several people at the same time floating in front of him. There was a circle of carvings on the bell. The bell looked very simple, but the carvings were very bright. On top of the bell, there was a beautiful flower. There were blooming flowers, half-blooming flowers, budding flowers, and even withered flowers. From the looks of it, this was the process of a flower's birth, growth, blooming, and withering. When Lin Zhen's spiritual force landed inside, he immediately felt that this god clock was extraordinary. When his spiritual power entered, it was as if he had entered a real garden. Around him were bright and beautiful flowers that bloomed, withered, and died. What a miraculous treasure! I can even sense the flow of time within this treasure. It's either fast or slow. It's hard to understand. Haste is the acceleration of time. Slowness is the deceleration of time. It seems that as long as I can comprehend this ethereal divine bell, I will be able to grasp the primordial realm's time acceleration and deceleration. Acceleration has a miraculous effect in battle, while deceleration has an even more miraculous effect in cultivation. It's just that I haven't found any clues yet. The temporal laws of the new territories are completely different from those of the primordial realm. They are countless times more profound and complicated. Let me start from the aspect of time acceleration. I'll try to understand it and cultivate it. Lin Zhen's spiritual force maintained the God clock's suspension. He abandoned all distracting thoughts and began to focus on entering the God clock garden. Lin Zhen thought that comprehending the God clock was already difficult enough, but he never expected that the comprehension process was countless times more difficult than he had imagined. When his spiritual force entered the God clock garden, Lin Zhen discovered that the temporal laws were contained in the blooming flowers. When a flower bloomed, it was the most beautiful moment. However, beauty was always short-lived. The owner of the God clock seemed to understand this, so the time it took for the flowers to bloom was very short. It was precisely because it was short that it was difficult to grasp. Every time Lin Zhen faced a flower to comprehend it, the blooming of the flower would end, just as he had a little feeling. It would then enter the withering phase of the flower. Phew! So difficult! Lin Zhen ended another round of comprehension and looked at the time in the dimensional universe. He realized that half a month had passed. I really don't know how much time has passed while cultivating. I only felt that it was very short, but I never expected half a month to pass. This is under the condition that I don't have any results. Once I succeed, I'm afraid decades or even centuries will pass in the blink of an eye. I have to learn time deceleration. The path to the peak is destined to not be easy. I have to do what others can't. I need a lot of time to make up for my lack of cultivation time. After temporarily adjusting his unfavorable state of mind, Lin Zhen began to summarize. There shouldn't be any mistakes in the comprehension process. I have dabbled in the temporal laws before. I have thoroughly comprehended the time stone and the pocket watt. Although the temporal laws of the primordial realm are more difficult, time is always the same. It just requires more deduction, calculation, and comprehension. But for some reason, every time I try to comprehend it, the blooming of the flower will end just as I have a feeling. It makes me lose my reference point and it's all in vain. Lin Zhen thought about it and still couldn't come to a conclusion. Feeling a little confused, Lin Zhen temporarily stopped his comprehension, got up and left the back hall. He came to the front hall of the Golden Pill workshop. It was morning and the staff were just preparing to open for business. Now that there were many alchemists in the Golden Pill workshop, there was no need to worry about ordinary elixirs. Moreover, Lin Zhen's clone had been refining elixirs and would occasionally give pointers to ordinary alchemists. As a peak Saint-Tier alchemist, Lin Zhen's pointers were enough to save them a lot of detours. They benefited immensely. As a result, more and more alchemists were willing to join Lin Zhen, forming a good industry chain. The situation of Lin Zhen's family dominating the pill industry in Sky Square City already appeared. Lin Zhen appeared early now. The alchemists and staff couldn't distinguish between the real body and the clone and greeted him one after another. Sage Master. Morning. Sage Master, your complexion looks good today. Lin Zhen also greeted them one by one with a smile. After walking around, he came to a side hall. This was Lalati's residence. She had just walked out of the door and didn't have time to put down her hood. Her long golden hair was draped over her shoulders and her face was bright and beautiful. She had the exotic charm of a foreign beauty on earth. Morning. Lin Zhen took the initiative to greet her. When Lalati saw Linjin, she snorted coldly from her nostrils. Seeing someone you don't like early in the morning really spoils my good mood for the day. Except for when you're refining elixirs, you're simply an eyesore at other times. Linjin smiled bitterly. Am I such an eyesore? Didn't you stay here because you took the initiative to make a bet? Humph. You're just an eyesore. If I didn't want to learn your alchemy skills, I would have run away long ago. Unfortunately, you're too stingy. When you let me watch you refine elixirs every day, it's just like a flash in the pan. The time is too short. Hearing this, Linjin suddenly froze. Seeing Linjin standing there in a daze, Lalati started to panic. Hey! Why are you standing there in a daze like a block of wood? Don't tell me you're unhappy because of what I said. Hey! Why aren't you saying anything? Actually, you've spent quite a lot of time refining pills. At the very least, you've treated me differently. You're not like those cheap alchemists who come to watch you for 2 hours every day. I'm quite satisfied. Hey! I'm just complaining. You don't have to be so petty. Say something? Seeing Linjin not saying anything, Lalati started to get anxious. Linjin suddenly reacted. What did you say before? What did I say? Lalati was stunned. What you said just now. I said you don't have to be petty. Forward. I said you've spent quite a lot of time refining elixirs. Forward again. I said you're like a block of wood. You don't have any improper thoughts about me, do you? This is my clone. You can't mess around. I don't mean that. Linjin frowned, not this. Forward again. I said your alchemy is like a flash in the pan, fleeting. Linjin's eyes suddenly lit up. A flash in the pan. I understand. Flowering. So it's because of the flowering. No matter what kind of training, you have to go from simple to difficult. The road has to be walked step by step. Start from the simple to the beginning. Not like before. Haha. Yes, that's it. Hearing Linjin say this, Lalati was a bit confused. He waved his hand in front of Linjin. What are you talking to yourself about? Don't tell me you've lost your mind? Linjin laughed. You're the one who's lost his mind. It's all thanks to you today. Master thanks you. As he spoke, Linjin ruffled Lalati's fluffy blonde hair, turning it into a mess. Hey! Are you crazy? Why are you messing up my hair? Your hair is nothing. Master has had an epiphany. I've decided to reward you. From now on, you can watch me refine elixirs for 3 hours every day. As Linjin spoke, he waved his hand at Lalati, turned around and walked back to the back hall. Lalati looked at Linjin's disappearing figure, but his eyes were filled with amazement. He actually had an epiphany just like that. This cheap master of his seemed to have an extraordinary aptitude. He's about to enter the eye of the storm. If he can have a breakthrough, his future will be limitless. Humans, astral behemoths. It seems like an incredible figure is about to emerge from the surface races. And this person is not simple. He has connections with many people and things. Empress Concubine by Susu was saved by this person. In the future, what will the future be like? Chapter 893. Linjin was enlightened. He returned to the back hall and immediately began a new round of meditation. There were tens of thousands of flowers in the garden inside the god clock. Linjin did not look at the flowers that had a short flowering period. Instead, he went directly to the front of an ivy vine. The ivy flowers bloomed in layers and flowed all year round. It was enough to ensure Linjin's meditation. Time acceleration and deceleration both require a process. The maximum deceleration effect here is 24 times. The same goes for acceleration. Only after I can comprehend the corresponding time acceleration will I have the possibility of comprehending time deceleration. Like this ivy flower, it should contain a twofold time acceleration. I'll try to comprehend it first. Linjin's judgment was correct. This time, the ivy flower did not decay as quickly as ordinary flowers because its time acceleration was very slow. It was just enough for a beginner like Lin Zhen to comprehend. His mental power fell on the flower. Lin Zhen used his mind to comprehend the process of the flower blooming. When the flower blooms, the flow of time around the petals is different from other places. It's obviously faster than other places. I have to master this force field. The law of time is incomparably profound and relies on the law of space. Only when space exists can time exist. If there is no space, then time has no basis and meaning. I have to comprehend the flow of time even more since I'm in space. Since the flow of time is different around the petals, then let me transform into the petals. Lin Zhen's mind stirred. His mental power had already entered the petals, the core of the petals, the stamen. His body was still outside. He felt the normal flow of time, but his mental power was already in a twofold time acceleration. Such a strong contrast was very beneficial to Lin Zhen's meditation. Sitting cross-legged in front of the god clock, Lin Zhen concealed his spirit and qi and entered a deep state of cultivation. Eye of the Storm Star Field. A level 35 cosmic storm was roaring and wreaking havoc. It was moving at a speed of more than 200,000 kilometers per second. The sky was filled with planetary fragments that were as thin as cicadas' wings and as sharp as blades after being polished by the storm for millions of years or even longer. As the storm rotated, they formed streaks of light blue light. These fragments were made of extremely sturdy materials, and each of them was as powerful as a sharp blade. There was no way to pass through them. The width of the storm reached over 1,000 light-years, forming a forbidden zone for life. Even a mosquito that flew over would be instantly sliced into hundreds of pieces. At the periphery of the storm, a space camera with 1,000 times high-speed recording function was recording the situation of the storm from billions of kilometers away. Hey! It had weakened. It's weakened. Through the lens of the camera, the fatal light blue ray that could not be captured at all gradually appeared in the camera. Hurry up and test. The wind speed is dropping rapidly. Level 34. Level 33. Level 30. The storm will stop completely within a week. Haha. It's been 9 million years, and it's finally time for the eye of the storm to stop. A grand gathering is about to take place here. Release the news. Those who want to enter the eye of the storm can set off now. Those who had been observing the eye of the storm spread the news in all directions. There were too many people who wanted to enter the eye of the storm. Just within Sky City alone, the number of martial artists who signed up had exceeded 1 million. Moreover, these martial artists weren't ordinary people. One must know that there was a requirement to sign up in Sky City. Only those who had reached 4-star could sign up. Moreover, Sky City wasn't the only city in the endless battlefield. In the dozens of nearby cities, there were tens of millions of martial artists who wanted to enter the eye of the storm. According to the incomplete statistics, there were about 50 million people from the surface races. Corresponding to the surface races, the number of people from the endless races was about the same. Therefore, there were about 100 million people who wanted to enter the eye of the storm. The eye of the storm was dangerous. The process of searching for treasures was filled with all kinds of unknown risk. Similarly, one would have to face other competitors. According to the process of entering the eye of the storm in the past, the number of people who could come out alive would definitely not exceed half. However, the martial artists were still rushing like ducks because those who could come out alive would have great achievements in the future. Master, the post in the dimensional universe doesn't have any news related to the two young masters. Crazy reminded Lin Zhen in the dimensional universe. During this period of time, Lin Zhen's name was very famous in the surrounding areas. Many people wanted to become his disciple and make friends with him. Lin Zhen also asked Crazy to pay close attention to the situation in the dimensional universe to see if there was any news about Lin Ping and Lin An. However, there wasn't any news, which explained the problem. Lin Ping and Lin An were definitely not in Sky City. They weren't even in the surrounding areas of Sky City. Father and son were connected. Lin Zhen felt that his two sons were definitely still alive. They were just not in the vicinity. Although his current reputation wasn't small, it was still far from being able to affect the entire endless sea of stars. It seems like my reputation isn't enough. The two children don't even know that their father has come to the endless battlefield. However, the opening of the Eye of the Storm has attracted the attention of the surface races and the endless races. The degree of attention isn't something that Sky City can compare with. If I can make a name for myself in the Eye of the Storm, they will definitely get my news. He turned his gaze back to the ethereal divine bell. Over the past month, my progress in comprehending the ethereal divine bell is not bad. I have already grasped the twofold time acceleration, which can be used in actual combat. However, comprehending the time acceleration is very difficult. It's definitely not something that can be accomplished overnight. I don't have much time left. I have to prepare to head to the Eye of the Storm. Lin Zhen raised his hand and kept the ethereal divine bell into his inner world. He began to organize his things. He didn't have the chance to comprehend the stone tablet from the sacred ground during this period. He had to comprehend the myriad sword arts Rakshasa. His shadowless steps had reached the 6th level. It would take some time to completely comprehend it. There was also the Luotian escape art, which would be his trump card in the Eye of the Storm. With this technique, it would be very difficult for anyone to kill Lin Zhen. In addition, there were medicinal ingredients. The acquisition during this period of time had yielded initial result. He had collected enough medicinal ingredients for the flower nourishing pill. There were also medicinal ingredients for the divine will realm. Lin Zhen had stored enough medicinal ingredients for Lin Zhen to cultivate until he reached the divine realm. The 3 destructive divine thunders in his body had fully recovered and could be used at critical moment. Lin Zhen's star energy was as high as 350 million. His doppelganger's star energy was as high as 400 million. This was enough for Lin Zhen to fight against divine realm opponent. Lin Zhen was confident that he could fight against an ordinary late-stage divine realm expert if he teamed up with his doppelganger. However, he wouldn't be able to do anything higher, such as the divine stone realm or the demigod realm. In the Eye of the Storm, divine stone realm experts and demigod realm experts were the main force. Although Lin Zhen's current strength was decent, there was still a big gap between him and these top experts. There might be Emperor realm experts or Hall of the Exalted entering the Eye of the Storm. However, the chances of encountering them were too low. Lin Zhen didn't care too much. There are countless experts in the Eye of the Storm. My strength is at most average. I have to be very careful. Maybe I need a small team to enter the Eye of the Storm with others. Lin Zhen opened the dimensional universe and began to look for news about forming a team to enter the Eye of the Storm. There were too many such news. Just in the forum of Sky City, there were tens of thousands of requests to form a team. For experts, it didn't matter whether they formed a team or not. It would be more convenient for them to act alone. However, for those with average strength, forming a team was the safest. 4 missing members in a 5-member team. We need a powerful warrior with a star energy value of more than 300 million. 2 missing members in a high-level spirit reader team. We need a diamond spirit reader. Team of conscience, sincere cooperation. Divine stone resources will be distributed according to performance. We already have 2 members. Add more if you need. Strong 4-member team, led by a divine stone realm expert. We still need an alchemist. Add more alchemists. Lin Zhen glanced around. Actually, according to his conditions, he was very popular. Putting everything else aside, The 9 transformation golden pill was Lin Zhen's biggest advantage, as it could save his life at a critical moment. Any team would need it. However, Lin Zhen didn't want to join a team rashly. He had to choose the most suitable team. Some teams might seem strong, but if weaklings joined, they wouldn't get fair treatment. While he was choosing, someone in the dimensional universe suddenly added him as a friend. Master, someone has added you as a friend. His name is Chen Yuan. Do you accept? Lin Zhen was stunned. He hadn't seen Chen Yuan after the virtual battlefield, but he was sure that Chen Yuan would also go to the Eye of the Storm. Lin Zhen had a good impression of Chen Yuan. Moreover, this person was also from the sacred land of Fallen Star Lake and could be considered as a fellow disciple. Lin Zhen immediately agreed to add him at this time. It was probably related to the Eye of the Storm. Except, soon, Chen Yuan's image appeared in the dimensional universe. Ah, Junior Brother Lin, I haven't had the chance to congratulate you. Congratulations on becoming famous in one battle and entering the Eye of the Storm. Congratulations on becoming the leader of the elixir industry in Sky Square City. Senior Brother Chen, you're too polite. I was just lucky. Luck is also a part of strength. Junior Brother Lin, you don't have to be modest. Actually, I have a request for you this time. Please go ahead, Senior Brother Chen. Junior Brother, are you in a team now? If you don't plan to go alone and want to find a reliable team, how about coming to my team? Lin Zhen pondered for a moment. Since Senior Brother has invited me, this team must be very strong. I'm just afraid that I won't hold you back. Chapter 894. Lin Zhen came to 77 Empress Street. As soon as he arrived, the door opened. Chen Yuan and a few others welcomed him at the door. Haha, Junior Brother is here. Quick, Senior Brother will introduce you. Chen Yuan pulled Lin Zhen's hand and pointed at the 3 people behind him. These 3 people are not outsiders. They are all from our Fallen Star Lake sacred land. They are Lu Tianhua, Mu En, and Arudi. Lu Tianhua was a vigorous man. He stood there like a straight spear, overflowing with sharpness. It was obvious that he had great attainments in long weapons. Mu En was a brown-haired man who used a sword. Arudi was a tall and strong man. He was so strong that he gave off an inhuman feeling. Among them, Chen Yuan, Mu En, and Arudi were at the late stage of the divine realm. Lu Tianhua was at the peak of the divine realm and looked like he was about to enter the divine stone realm. Lu Tianhua laughed and came over. If I didn't hear from Chen Yuan, I wouldn't know that our famous saint teacher Lin Zhen is also from the Fallen Star Lake sacred land. After hearing this news, I immediately asked Chen Yuan to contact you. No matter what, you have to let Junior Brother Lin join our team. We are from the same sect and know each other's background. We can take care of each other. Mu En said, Junior Brother Lin is here. I'm finally not at the bottom of the team. Lu Tianhua smiled. That's not necessarily true. Junior Brother Lin is a saint alchemist and can refine the 9 transformation golden pill that can bring people back from the dead. In a sense, he is the most important person. When Mu En heard this, his face turned slightly ugly. Arudi patted his chest. Junior Brother, if there is any danger in the future, just hide behind me. I will block it for you. However, if I am killed, you have to be responsible for reviving me. Lu Tianhua punched Arudi. Do you think you have to revive for free? Junior Brother's 9 transformation golden pill also has a cost. I will say it first. In the future, if someone in our team really dies, Junior Brother will be responsible for reviving them. However, Junior Brother will also take an extra share of the divine stones obtained from the Eye of the Storm. Lu Tianhua was very considerate. He said this in advance to avoid disputes in the future. Lin Zhen also laughed and said, Then I won't be polite. At this moment, Mu En glanced at Lin Fan and said, It's still better to have skills. Just get some herbs and burn them. That way you can earn more than others. Junior brother Lin, I really admire you, alchemist. Lin Jun stared blankly for a moment. Then, he smiled and said, whether it's alchemy or martial arts, it's all for the sake of better cultivation. It requires hard work. If senior brother Mu is envious, you can take out some herbs and burn them. Hearing Lin Jun's words, Muin's face turned ugly. He didn't expect that Lin Jun would dare to talk back to him. Just as he was about to continue speaking, Lu Tianhua waved his hand. Let's not talk about this anymore. Junior brother Lin being able to refine pills is also his ability. Who can guarantee that we won't encounter any danger in the eye of the storm? Who knows when we might need Junior brother Lin's pills to save our lives? Don't make Junior brother Lin unhappy. Hearing this, Mu En finally chose to shut his mouth. He knew that everyone needed Lin Jun, and he could not offend him easily. They didn't continue this topic, and entered the room with smiles on their faces. Sitting down in the room, Lu Tianhua said, since everyone has agreed to be together, then I'll say some things first. I'm the leader of this team. When we reach the eye of the storm, don't act alone. We have to advance and retreat together. After we get the divine stones, we'll split them equally. What do you think? Chen Yuan shook his head slightly. Senior brother Lu, you're the leader and also the most powerful person in the team. You should get more. Lin Jun also said, that's right. If you're strong, you should get more. Otherwise, even if I take out my golden core to save people, I'll be embarrassed to ask for more. Alright then, I'll take an extra share. Also, if junior brother Lin takes out his golden core, he'll also get an extra share of divine stones. That's settled. They didn't express any disagreements. Mu En opened his mouth but didn't say anything. After deciding on the distribution, Lu Tianhua took out a map. This is a map of the Eye of the Storm. It's marked with the situation inside. Everyone knows that there was a divine battle in the Eye of the Storm. 2 powerful gods perished here. One of them was called the Hurricane God, and the other was the Thunderstorm God. It's said that these 2 were strong even among the gods. They had countless powerful subordinate. After the battle, they basically destroyed an entire galaxy. In that battle, millions of strong people died, including tens of thousands of demigods. Some of them were even crowned kings. It's said that there were even Hall of the Exalted. We're going to the Eye of the Storm to collect the treasures these people lost. The most important of them are the divine stones. The 4 gods set up an exchange platform here. Everyone in the Eye of the Storm can use divine stones to exchange for treasures and improve their strength. Everyone here is a competitor, so we have to team up to protect ourselves. Mu En said, the battlefield of the divine stones prohibits demigods from entering. If the 5 of us move together, there shouldn't be too much risk. Lu Tianhua said solemnly, I have bad news for everyone. 3 days ago, a demigod tried to pass through the Eye of the Storm and found that the restriction had disappeared. Demigods can enter too? Arudi's mouth was wide open. That's right. It's said that there's a reason for this. It seems that there's a god who has a close relationship with Fu Tian City. A Hall of the Exalted from Fu Tian City and a few king-level experts jointly requested the god to remove the restriction so that demigods could have a chance to enter the Eye of the Storm. That god was one of the gods who set up the reward for entering the Eye of the Storm. With his efforts, the restriction was removed. Hearing this, Lin Jun's heart skipped a beat. Fu Tian City, wasn't that the city where the Heartless King was at the auction house? Could it be that the removal of the demigod restriction in the Eye of the Storm had something to do with him? At this time, Lin Jun remembered what the Heartless King said to him before leaving the auction house. Since he had obtained the ethereal god clock, he should keep it well and not lose it in the Eye of the Storm. Now that he thought about it, this sentence seemed to have a deeper meaning. If the Heartless King had really found someone to do it, then the danger level in the Eye of the Storm would definitely be doubled. However, he could not say this out loud for the time being. He could only take it one step at a time. Lu Tianhua continued to explain the situation in the eye of the storm. Because demigods have entered, we have to be more careful. Don't provoke the real experts and try not to enter the dangerous area. Everyone has been through hundreds of battles and knows that there's a future only if you're alive. Don't destroy yourself because of a moment of greed. For example, the core of the Eye of the Storm, the Valley of Wind and Thunder, is a place that no one can enter. Senior Brother Lu, where is the Valley of Wind and Thunder? Is it on a certain planet? No, the Valley of Wind and Thunder is a place where hundreds of planets collided, forming a huge valley-shaped ruin. That's where the final battle of the two great gods took place. It's said that the two great gods and a few hall of the exalted experts left their legacies there. That's also the core of the storm. No one who has tried to enter has made it out alive. At this time, Mu En said, "Then we'd better stay away from that place. I'm afraid that the demigods have already taken over that place. We'll just die if we go there. Let's just look around the periphery." Lu Tianhua nodded. Other than the Valley of Wind and Thunder being the #1 forbidden area, there are also two places, the Planetary Cemetery and the Stagger Continent. These two places are where the experts have died in large numbers. Among them, the Planetary Cemetery has the highest number of deaths, but their strength is relatively weaker. The Stagger Continent has fewer deaths, but most of them are divinity stones, demigods, and even regal demigods. The quality of the treasures there is higher. If we go in, our first goal is to go to the Planetary Cemetery. That's the area where low-level warriors live. If we go to the Stagger Continent, I'm afraid we'll be killed by the demigods. Lu Tianhua said a lot and took a break. That's about it. If you meet people from the surface races in the Eye of the Storm, try to control yourself. Our main enemies are the endless races. If you meet them, there will be a battle. Everyone, be careful. Chen Yuan smiled. Understood. Our team's position in the Eye of the Storm is a team of losers. Don't be rash and go to the area of the rich and handsome. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Lu Tianhua laughed. Although this description doesn't sound good, it's quite appropriate. Chen Yuan said, "Captain, when are we leaving? The Eye of the Storm will open in less than a week. If everyone is ready, we'll leave now. It'll take at least 5 days to get to the Eye of the Storm from here." We're ready," everyone answered. "Okay, then let's get ready to go. Take my car." Lu Tianhua raised his hand, and a dragon car pulled by an azure dragon appeared. "Get on. We'll go to the City Lord's mansion to get a number plate. When we get to the Eye of the Storm, we'll have to check. Other than warriors who have registered successfully, other wandering warriors are not allowed to enter." The few of them got on the dragon car. The azure dragon let out a dragon roar and soared into the sky, heading in the direction of the City Lord's mansion. A few minutes later, the dragon car landed in front of the City Lord's mansion. The 5 of them got off one by one. There was a long queue at the gate of the City Lord's mansion. Warriors who wanted to go to the Eye of the Storm had to register at the City Lord's mansion and get a number plate. After waiting in line for 6 hours, it was finally Lin Zhen's turn. "This is your number plate. Sky City's 8802 team. 5 members. Captain Lu Tianhua. Team members Chen Yuan, Arudi, Mu En, and Lin Zhen. Check if there's any mistake." There's no mistake. Everyone's dimensional universe has been opened. When you get to the Eye of the Storm, you can enter through the check. You can check the panel of the God's reward through your dimensional universe. All the rewards are listed there and marked clearly. The few of them nodded and left the City Lord's mansion. "Okay, junior brothers. Let's get up and go to the Eye of the Storm. I hope everyone will cheer up and not ruin the reputation of our fallen Star Lake," Lu Tianhua said and waved his hand. The dragon car started. Chapter 895. On the dragon chariot, Lin Zhen leaned back in his seat and opened the exchange panel in the dimensional universe. The rewards on the exchange panel were provided by the 4 gods. The gods did not lack money, and they did not need ordinary currency. What the gods needed were god stones, a large number of them. God stones could be used as a high-level currency among the gods, and they could also be used for cultivation. It was said that the god crystal's circulation was powerful, and it could be strengthened by absorbing and refining a large number of god stones. Therefore, god stones were very important to the gods, but for people below the gods they were basically useless. Everyone in the eye of the storm was actually working for the four gods. They collected god stones and brought them to the gods to exchange for good things. Wow! There are really a lot of good things. Opening the exchange panel, Lin Zhen's eyes lit up. 3 god stones could be exchanged for a heavenly spirit fruit. The heavenly spirit fruit could restore a martial artist's exhausted star power to a full state in an instant. Not every ancient martial art practitioner had Lin Zhen's super strong endurance. A fruit that could instantly restore one's condition was something that many people yearned for even in their dreams. However, each person could only take one in a month, but this did not prevent martial artists from storing a few more in case of an emergency. Secret manuals of cultivation methods, spiritual treasures, and such things were also available. Upper-grade spiritual treasure Cold Edge Saber, exchange price of 20 god stones, not expensive. Supreme-grade spiritual treasure 4 symbols shield, exchange price of 300 god stones. This is already very powerful. It's a supreme-grade defensive spiritual treasure, almost indestructible. Dazzling gold body tempering art, exchange price of 220 god stones. This is also not bad. After mastering it, the defense will be almost on par with my armor. Damn. Ultimate treasure divine sword. Exchange price of 4,000 god stones. This is totally a weapon of the gods, and they are actually exchanging it for god stones. There's actually more. Ultimate treasure heaven splitting axe, exchange price of 5,000 god stones. Ultimate treasure spirit light armor, exchange price of 8,000 god stones. Lin Zhen was a little dazzled as he looked around. There were a total of 9 ultimate treasures that could be exchanged. Saber, spear, sword, halberd, shield, armor, hammer, and staff, plus a bow and quiver. Each supreme treasure had great power and strength. In the hands of a martial artist, it was completely a sharp weapon to fight across realms. These utmost treasures are pretty decent. However, I feel that my god's clock seems to be a little better. Not only does it contain the laws of time, it should also have some special functions. It's definitely above these utmost treasures. The treasures that these gods took out probably aren't their best. They just took out some things that they didn't need and made these warriors work for them. However, for ordinary warriors, supreme treasures are indeed enough to drive them crazy. In addition to cultivation methods and treasures, there were also divine crystals. There were about a dozen divine crystals of various colors on the exchange panel. The red ones were fire elemental divine crystals, the green ones were wind elemental divine crystals, the yellow ones were earth elemental divine crystals. Lin Zhen also had a divine crystal before. Back then, his divine crystal was red. At first, Lin Zhen thought that all divine crystals were red. Later on, he found out that divine crystals were also divided into different elements. It was most appropriate to choose the divine crystal that was most suitable for oneself to absorb. If one absorbed divine crystals of different elements, there might be some negative consequences. However, Lin Zhen wasn't too clear about the specifics. No one had explained these things to him before. The price of these divine crystals was basically 3,000 divine stones per divine crystal. The price was relatively uniform. However, since there were elemental elements, there should be special elements such as ice, lightning, light, and so on. However, Lin Zhen didn't see any of them here. Presumably, divine crystals of special elements would be more expensive. However, these gods hadn't been listed yet. He didn't know if there would be more treasures in the future. Other than divine crystals, there were even better things. Inheritance crystal ball. Inheritance Crystal Ball was a martial artist's lifetime of learning. The most important and most essential part was recorded in a crystal ball and passed down to future generations. It was considered a priceless treasure. Divine Stone Realm Inheritance Crystal Ball was 500 divine stones per divine stone. Demigod Realm Inheritance Crystal Ball was 1,000 divine stones per divine stone. Emperor Realm Inheritance Crystal Ball was 3,000 divine stones per divine stone. Hall of the Exalted Inheritance Crystal Ball was 10,000 divine stones per divine stone. Among them, the most eye-catching one was a huge crystal ball. God's Inheritance. This was left behind by a god. It recorded the god's lifetime of learning, his cultivation techniques, knowledge, and experiences. It would greatly increase a martial artist's strength. Obtaining God's inheritance meant that there was a high chance of entering the God realm. This was the greatest attraction. It wasn't refining divine crystals to enter the God realm. It was self-cultivation. This was a world of difference. God's inheritance crystal ball was 100,000 divine stones per divine stone. This was also the most valuable item on the exchange panel. It was also something that almost all martial artists yearned for. Lin Zhen's fingers gently rubbed as he secretly weighed in his heart. What choice was the most beneficial to him? The Eye of the Storm took 49 years. Divine stones definitely weren't easy to find. He had to make a careful plan and choose the most suitable item for himself. He couldn't spend money on meaningless things. After thinking for a while, Lin Zhen felt a bit of a headache. There were too many things to exchange for. It was better to wait until he reached the Eye of the Storm. Keeping the exchange panel, Lin Zhen looked at the expressions of the others. He almost laughed out loud. Everyone was drooling at the void. Clearly, they were dazzled by the endless treasures on the exchange panel. One could imagine that after reaching the Eye of the Storm, divine stones would be the lifeblood of every martial artist. In order to fight for divine stones, they would probably do anything. Lin Zhen didn't continue looking. Instead, he chose to close his eyes and meditate. He once again comprehended the ethereal God bell. I should learn to decelerate time as soon as possible and buy more time for myself. This is what I should do. It wasn't easy to resist the temptation of treasures and focus on cultivation. At this moment, Lin Zhen felt that his state of mind had improved. He was overjoyed. He would definitely gain something from this cultivation. Lin Zhen began cultivating. The others were immersed in the temptation of treasures. They were almost unable to extricate themselves. In the blink of an eye, 6 days had passed. Hiss! Following the long roar of the azure dragon, the dragon carriage slowed down. Lu Tianhua's carriage driver turned around and said to the people in the carriage, "Mr. Lu, everyone, we've arrived at the Eye of the Storm." We've arrived so quickly. Lu Tianhua came back to his senses and shook his dizzy head. He felt a little ashamed. In the past few days, he had almost entered a state of selflessness. All day long, he was calculating what kind of treasures to fight for, who might compete with him, how powerful he would be after obtaining the treasures, and so on. Being immersed in treasures and forgetting to cultivate was not something a martial artist should do. He looked back and saw that Chen Yuan, Mu En, Arudi, and the others were still intoxicated. This made him feel a little better. It seemed that these people were not as good as him. However, when he saw Lin Zhen, he found that Lin Zhen's eyes were slightly closed. He was slowly exhaling a turbid breath. It was obvious that he had just recovered from his cultivation state. How is this possible? Lin Zhen is only a martial artist in the three-flower realm. How can he resist the temptation of so many treasures? He even has time to cultivate now. Lu Tianhua was shocked. It seemed that he needed to re-evaluate Lin Zhen's strength. Now Lu Tianhua was a little embarrassed to face Lin Zhen. He quickly turned around and pretended that he had also just finished cultivating. He did not want Lin Zhen to laugh at him as a senior brother. However, it was precisely because of this that he neglected the fact that the turbid air that Lin Zhen spat out was much slower than usual. This was extremely illogical. After coughing, Lu Tianhua turned around and clapped his hands. Clap, clap, clap! All right, junior brothers, we've arrived at our destination. We've now arrived at the eye of the storm. Wake up quickly. We're getting ready to get off the carriage. The remaining few people also woke up from the temptation of treasures and smiled embarrassedly. Looking at that God's inheritance crystal ball made me silly. I was actually daydreaming. I didn't expect to reach the eye of the storm so quickly. I'm really ashamed. The captain is still the best. I didn't even pay attention to it. Lu Tianhua heard Qin Yuan's words and waved his hand. I just woke up not long ago. Let's not talk about it. Although the treasures are good, they're not ours now. We can only hope to get what we want if we work together sincerely and earn more God stones. Alright, get ready to get off the carriage. Several people stood up and got off in a single file. After leaving the dragon carriage, everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. The dragon carriage stopped at a small planet less than 100 kilometers in diameter. Standing on the planet, they could see the huge eye of the storm galaxy in the distance. It was like an ant standing in front of the sun. The eye of the storm galaxy was unimaginably huge. Pieces of light blue planet fragments that were as sharp as knives slowly rotated, as if driven by inertia. From where they could see to the end of their vision, everything was filled with this blue color. It was boundless. The entire galaxy was spinning, and this spectacular scene was deeply shocking. On this small planet that they stopped at temporarily, many people were dumbfounded as they looked at the huge rotating galaxy. Although the galaxy might be tens of millions of kilometers away, or even billions of kilometers away, the huge force that caused the heaven and earth to collapse and the universe to tremble still made people's hearts surge. What an eye of the storm! Lu Tianhua sighed softly. After everyone recovered from their shock, they looked ahead and saw that there seemed to be a temporary inspection station. The people from the surface races heading to the eye of the storm were lining up here. They were preparing to pass through the inspection station before they were allowed to enter the eye of the storm. Everyone, line up and follow me. After passing through the inspection station, we can explore this new world at any time. Lu Tianhua was the captain and walked at the front, followed by Qin Yuan and Arudi. Mu En should be next, followed by Lin Zhen. However, Mu En stared blankly for a long time and didn't move. Lin Zhen, who was behind him, saw that he didn't move and the other teams behind him were about to overtake him. He simply walked in front of him and pulled him. "Senior brother Mu En, it's time to go."